forest of 1,000 ghosts. The sound of a chase is heard through the night forest. Flying on an umbrella, the teacher chases a flock of demons. Laughing, he asks the demons to stop, because where has this been seen, so that they do not eat people, but run away in fear? Since you behaved so badly, there is no forgiveness for you, the teacher said with a smile. With one wave of his hand, he released tons of energy, which overtook the demons with great speed. The golden wave cut the demons into pieces. Due to the huge amount of spiritual energy released, it began to rain in the forest, even though there was not a single rain cloud in the sky. The teacher did not understand why everyone was afraid of the demonic creatures from the forest of 1,000 ghosts, because they are the real weaklings. He was upset because he didn't learn anything new on this trip. Suddenly, behind the sound of the rain, he felt heavy breathing not far away in the forest. Bloodied Emily lay on the grass and did not understand why her sister was doing this to her. Drops of rain flowed down her face and mixed with tears. She never stopped asking why they were doing this to her. Two girls dressed the same as Emily stood in front of her with drawn swords. They didn't do this out of malice. They were ordered to take Emily's spiritual root. With every moment her strength faded away. Emily did not care where her soul went, because the world was cruel everywhere. The girls left, and Emily lay bleeding in the rain, completely losing hope of life. Suddenly, through her clouded mind and the thickness of the rain, Emily heard a man's voice saying that it was a pity to die like this. She opened her eyes and saw that she was being watched by a young guy, whom she asked with her last strength for help. "Is it really that bad?" the teacher asked and pointed a finger at Emily. He was just joking, picked Emily up on his shoulder, and decided that they would do spiritual training later. The teacher opened his umbrella and carried Emily to his school. School of Martial Arts. Emily woke up in bed. She didn't know where she was or where her clothes were. There was a painting of the Mona Lisa hanging on the wall, and she couldn't understand where this work of art came from in this world. The doors opened sharply and a teacher entered the room, who happily announced that they now had a new addition to the school. Emily was completely naked, which delighted the teacher. Chest circumference 82, waist circumference 56, hip circumference 83. The teacher said that Emily's body was just great, but she wasn't too happy with him standing and backing away at her. She began to scream, calling him a pervert, but the teacher, without taking his eyes off her, calmly approached, because this is not how they treat their saviors. Emily didn't remember him. Was it really he who saved her? Was it really his voice? The teacher began to boast that it was he who found her in the forest of ghosts when she was already on the verge of death, but since he was kind, he took her to his school. The girl could not believe that there was a real painting of the Mona Lisa hanging on the wall, and asked the teacher who it belonged to. The teacher could not believe that Emily knew this picture. He took a closer look at Emily. Her facial features, soft hair, fair skin. He rushed into Emily's arms, glad that Emily was also from Earth. With a sharp tug, the blanket fell off Emily's shoulders. He stroked her back, but she froze and did not move. The teacher did not understand why he was stroking her back and did not feel the blanket. Then he moved Emily away from him and saw the fallen blanket, and a completely naked Emily standing in front of her on her knees. The teacher again did not take his eyes off her naked body. Realizing this, Emily turned sharply and kicked him right in the nose. 15 minutes passed, and since Emily's clothes were dirty and torn, the teacher gave her new clothes. Emily was a little embarrassed to walk around in the new dress, because it barely covered her, but the teacher could not take his eyes off her, and noticed that it perfectly emphasized her shape. Emily saw his expression and thought that he had given her such a short dress on purpose. But the teacher said that there was no other size, and now he wants her to sign the contract. Emily took the contract and said that if he looked at her like that, then it was quite possible that he was still a virgin. The contract represented enrollment in the U School of Martial Arts. The teacher said that he does not have enough students, and since Emily is now homeless, she definitely needs to sign a contract, since she has no other choice. She was in thought, because she didn't know whether she could trust a stranger, but she really had nowhere to go now. After thinking for a minute, Emily decided that this was her last chance, and released some of her spiritual energy to sign the contract. But as soon as just a drop of her spiritual energy was on the contract paper, he released a huge column of energy high into the sky. The rest of the school students saw this pillar, and knew very well that they now had a new student. The teacher took the contract, and now Emily officially became his person. Emily was surprised at the paper's reaction to one drop of her spiritual energy. It was not just a contract, it was a real heavenly contract. According to records, only 3 heavenly treaties have been made since ancient times. Each time such an agreement was concluded during centuries-old wars. This is a divine oath created by the leaders of the races who have reached the sacred stage of cultivation. But the holy monk has not been born for more than 100 years. Could this young guy who calls himself a teacher really be a holy monk? Emily thought. The teacher walked quickly around the school grounds, thinking about teaching today. They had just arrived at the martial arts training field. The students were looking forward to meeting their new teacher. The guy with yellow hair was called Simon. He, like the others, had not seen Emily and asked everyone what they thought. The new student was cute or seductive. Albert warned Simon not to say anything stupid. The younger student Darcy asked them not to quarrel and not to scare the new girl. The teacher and Emily approached the others, but they continued to quarrel. When the teacher came very close to the students, they quickly lined up and greeted him. The strongest and most pumped-up student, Logan, reported that all 5 were in place and waiting for the teacher's instructions. Emily was a little excited, and the teacher happily decided to introduce her to the others. The teacher happily informed everyone that this sweet girl's name is Emily, and now she is their new student. Everyone immediately started screaming and laughing with joy as they welcomed the new student. Emily couldn't stand it, and hid behind the teacher. But the teacher could not allow this. He quickly brought Emily out from behind and pushed her to quickly greet her new 4 brothers and sister. Emily said hi shyly, but she didn't immediately understand how there were 4 brothers and 1 sister. The teacher must have mixed something up, because there were 3 guys and 2 girls standing in front of her. The teacher approached the slender girl with a bright red finger, began to point his finger at her, smiling, and told Emily that this was also her brother named Albert. But Emily couldn't believe it, and the teacher, seeing her bewilderment, began to move her dress around her hips. And now it became clear that Albert was a man. Emily didn't think that the teacher would do such a thing, and this was not what she wanted to remember about her first meeting with the students, after which she attacked him with accusations. Albert didn't like the teacher's behavior even more, so he jumped high into the sky, and with all his might, from the height of the bird's flight, he delivered one powerful blow right to the teacher's head. Pieces of asphalt began to fly in different directions, and Emily could not believe that a simple student could strike with such enormous force. The teacher scratched his head a little and said that there was no need to get so excited. When the dust settled, it was clear that there was not a scratch on the teacher's body, but he was standing in a hole that was formed by the enormous power of Albert's blow. Does the fact that Albert put on women's clothes allow him to feel like a girl? Because the main thing is not to be shy. Because it doesn't matter at all if he put on women's clothes for the first time or did it a huge number of times. Emily thought about how unprincipled he was, because even after a powerful attack, he simply calmly climbed out of the hole, did not get angry, but only talked about identity. The teacher lightly patted Albert on the head and said that he should not worry, because if he wants, the teacher will treat him like a girl and raise her well. But this was not enough for Albert. He was still angry with the teacher. He wanted to do a roundhouse kick, but the teacher stopped his blow with a light touch. In all seriousness, the teacher said that next time he would not touch his dress. Emily was surprised again, because as soon as the teacher touched Albert's hand, all the power of the blow disappeared somewhere. The teacher apologized for the disturbance, and said that he and the new student had an urgent matter, and they could continue training. Emily no longer knew what to expect from him, and reluctantly agreed to go with him alone. They went to the backyard of a large building, and Emily asked why he took her there. His pressure were monstrous. He pressed Emily against the wall, and her heart began to beat faster. She tried to get out of his arms, but he didn't let her do it, grabbed her hand and pressed her leg. He placed one hand on her stomach and began to move his hand over it, pressing lightly. With his other hand he held Emily's hand so that she would not begin to calm down and stop resisting. The teacher asked her not to move. He pressed down on her stomach again. Goosebumps ran through Emily's body from the teacher's gentle touches. She got excited, but this was not part of the teacher's plans. Emily's body began to squirm and become covered in small beads of sweat. The more the teacher touched her, the stronger her desire became. The teacher did not immediately realize what was happening to her, because she completely stopped resisting. When Emily began to ask him to continue, he moved away from her and hit her on the back of the head. The teacher said that she was a young girl, and instead of studying, she was thinking too much of herself, But Emily said that if you pressed the girls around the corner like that, anyone would become corrupted. The teacher touched her for a reason, and apparently, only Emily wanted debauchery. He calmed down, and said that he brought Emily here to discuss her training. On her stomach he tried to feel her spiritual roots. Although they were torn out, she survived. And also the violation of cultivation. Emily raised her head in fear. You cannot cultivate a person who lacks spirit. Through years of training, mortals can be trampled like ants if there is a spirit within. She grabbed herself by the stomach and also wanted to find her spiritual roots. Because if a person does not have spiritual roots, it is as if he is already dead. She clutched her dress over her stomach and said that she couldn't do anything in that forest. If it weren't for the teacher, she would have died there. Remembering what happened in the forest, she began to cry. But the teacher tried to calm her down. It was not for nothing that she signed the divine contract. The teacher suggested giving her another spiritual root. Emily's eyes lit up. She couldn't believe the teacher's generosity. The teacher began to think he did not have the roots of the mysterious moon, but only the spiritual roots of white cold, fire and jade. But they cannot be used for a long time, no matter what roots she chooses. Among the 5 ranks of spiritual roots, her mysterious moon roots can also be regarded as high-level roots. Few were able to improve their spiritual roots even with years of training. The roots of the heavenly level for all warriors became the limit of perfection, and everyone strived to at least get closer to this limit. In order to participate in school student competitions, 3 spiritual roots would be enough. But Emily doubted that the teacher would give her all 3 spiritual roots that he had. Emily got angry and rudely asked the teacher what he wanted in return. She immediately warned him that she could not agree to intimacy. The teacher crossed his arms and said that she was imagining too much, after which he immediately hit her with a click to bring her to her senses a little. He immediately put his gentle hand to her forehead, came almost close and said that he was first of all her teacher, and would give her a gift in honor of the beginning of her studies. After that, he took out the 3 soul stones he talked about, and since she couldn't choose a stone for herself, he would do it for her. Emily originally had the roots of the mysterious moon, which is cold and will conflict with fire. White cold will control the pressure of the cold air remaining from the mysterious moon, but this is not enough. Only the jade roots remain. They can interact with both the cold and the darkness that remained in Emily after the roots of the mysterious moon. Emily looked at the teacher carefully, and could not believe that someone was doing good for her for free. The teacher saved her, gave her clothes and spiritual roots, and also took up teaching. Emily gradually fell in love with this young guy. The spiritual root is ready for use, the teacher said. But why is the shape of this spiritual root so strange? Emily asked. This spiritual root just needs to be eaten. Why is this spiritual root so strangely shaped and dangling like jelly? The teacher laughed and told her not to think about it, because she herself understood that she needed this spiritual root. The spiritual root was already right at her mouth, and she was looking at it carefully. First she smelled it. It gave off a pleasant lavender scent. Then she gently touched it with her tongue. It was a little moist and tasted good. Cool and refreshing, the spiritual root directly exuded spiritual power. Saying, "In the name of love," she began to put it deep in her mouth and tried to swallow it. It was very large and had difficulty getting into Emily's throat. The deep pushing brought tears to her eyes. After a few seconds, the spiritual root completely sank into her, and the teacher asked how pleasant it was for her, and what she felt now. She turned to the teacher and looked at him seriously. Immediately after this, she jumped and kicked. But today was not the first time a girl tried to hit the teacher, and he, already prepared for such a reaction, caught her leg and began stroking it to calm Emily down. Emily didn't pay attention to this, but was focused on the powerful blows she made in a second. Her strength returned to her. The spiritual root truly began to work. The teacher asked what about his suggestion if she would stay in school. She pulled her leg out of his arms and said that she would never go back again. The leg was suspended for a long time and became completely numb. It could not hold on and began to fall. She couldn't stand it and fell right on top of the teacher. He lay on his back and served as a softening layer between Emily and the ground. Her large, firm breasts were right in front of his face. Their bodies were pressed against each other, which could not but cause excitement and sharp tension between them. Emily said that her legs were just numb so that the teacher would not think that she was just pestering him. She asked him to move, and the teacher sharply arched his pelvis, so that he lifted her off the ground, and she hung on him. She got angry and told me to move to the side and not up. The teacher said with a grin that she should immediately say what she specifically wants. Emily said that in time she would be able to reclaim her spiritual roots. The teacher asked what she meant. Was it really revenge? She stopped abruptly. What did he say about revenge? The teacher did not understand what hurt her so much, and what she was going to do. At that very second, Emily began to exude enormous spiritual power, which even raised the wind around her. Her eyes were bloodshot. It was as if Emily had ceased to be herself, and had ceased to control her body. Jumping from side to side, she began to attack the teacher. He flew high above her head and avoided the attack. Emily had the same demonic aura that he had already encountered in the haunted forest. She ordered the teacher to disappear from her sight. Her voice and movements changed. She was no longer the sweet girl he had saved in the forest. Emily threatened the teacher if he didn't leave, she would kill him, and without waiting for his reaction, she rushed to attack. This was not his first fight, and although he did not expect such cruelty from his student, he easily dodged, and delivered one precise relaxing blow to the neck. From this blow she completely relaxed, because the teacher knew exactly how and where to hit correctly, after which her eyes began to lose a terrifying red tint. She lost consciousness, and lay in his arms. The evil that lurks in the forest somehow entered Emily's body and infected her mind, but the teacher did not understand how this could happen. He recalled a battle 100 years ago. Then he fought with a huge dragon, whose eyes were also filled with red, like Emily's now. He thought that day he ended this evil forever. Once things calmed down, he would need to visit the sky's limit. Suddenly Darcy's little student pulled him by the hem of his robe. The teacher did not expect to see her here and asked why she was here and not at training. Darcy was just walking around and heard a noise and came to see what was going on. She asked what happened to the new student, to which the teacher replied that she had almost lost her mind, and Darcy would help the teacher put her in order. Then he threw Emily, who was unconscious, onto Darcy. Darcy was short and could not hold Emily. Falling to the ground with her, she saw her large breasts protruding from the dress. She had never seen such large breasts before and was amazed by their beauty. The teacher again looked at Emily's breasts, as did Darcy, but tried to distract himself from dirty thoughts and decided to switch to the planned activities. The teacher instructed Darcy to clean up Emily while he went and found new clothes for her. An hour later the teacher was already in the Heavenly Valley. There were already a lot of people there, although the enrollment of students was supposed to take place only in 6 months. Everyone had to line up and only those who passed a basic test would be able to get in. Many students argued with each other which martial arts school was best to enroll in. The teacher joined the ranks of the students and began to take the qualification test. The test consisted of demonstrating one's inner strength. As soon as the teacher touched the stone, it began to shine, feeding on its energy. The master who selects students for martial arts schools said that the strength is enough and he moves on. The teacher said nothing and headed into the valley with a wide smile. Once upon a time, the teacher had already been to the Tian Valley. The teacher went to the battlefield. Since his last appearance here, the field has become much larger, with more and more contestants taking part. On the Presidium there were teachers from different schools who chose students who showed their skills on the battlefield. From School M, where Emily studied, Headmistress Eva was present. The teacher decided that if none of the school principals interfered with him, then it was not necessary to show mercy in battles, and was already ready for any battle. A girl with a stick-on man's mustache approached him from behind. She peered into his face and made a small prophecy that today he would stain his snow-white clothes with blood. The teacher was suspicious of her words, and the girl immediately offered to tell fortunes about his future, naturally for a fee. As a serious guest, she even offered a 20% discount. The teacher came closer to her and asked the scammer to glue her mustache tighter next time. She didn't even notice how part of her mustache came off. How dare she extort money from grown people if the milk on her lips has not yet dried? Out of breath, she ran to her uncle. Uncle forbade her to run here. She made him worry. She said that she was not wasting her time. Taking out the amulet of the third eye from her pocket, she said that she was unable to read the fate of the young guy, even with his help. The third eye could read the fate of any person except the prophetic son. She could not see his fate, and this only meant that he, in fact, was not alive. The head of the Blue Feather clan ordered them to read the fates of all people, but the person whose fate they cannot read can save their clan from extinction, and should be brought to the head of the clan and treated with respect. The uncle, remembering the words of the head of the clan, asked if the girl treated him with respect, to which she confidently replied that yes, because she offered him a discount. Obviously, this was not the kind of respect my uncle was counting on. The girl distracted him from the conversation and said that this man was now in the ring. Opening his eyes slightly, he saw Teacher Steve in the ring, who was fighting against a girl from M's school. The beat of a drum sounded like the sound of the beginning of a battle. They greeted each other before the fight. The girl had never seen Steve before, and decided that she would quickly end things with him. She thought that just one blow would be enough for her. She suddenly rushed to attack with great speed, but Steve didn't even move. Even though she had excellent acceleration and swing, it didn't really help her. A direct kick from Steve quickly cooled the girl's ardor. From such a blow she flew in the opposite direction with even greater speed, having broken through the concrete slabs with her body. Becca clearly understood that this young guy had some skills up his sleeve. She underestimated the enemy, and it seems the battle will not end as she planned. Becca wanted to get to her feet, but Steve was next to her in an instant and stepped on her chest. She got angry and started screaming at him. She didn't understand that he wanted to kill her or humiliate her. Steve removed his foot with a smile and said that it was an accident. He leaned down sharply and pressed himself against Becky's body lying on the ground. He knew that Becca was from School M, where Emily studied, and pressing her face close to him, he asked where Emily's spiritual root was. Becca did not expect such a question from him, and asked how he knew about what happened. The warriors around did not understand whether the duel between them was over, and what the two of them were doing on the ground with their bodies pressed against each other. Steve whispered that Emily was still alive the night Becca left her to die in the woods. She did not expect to hear this at all. From a complete stranger to her, this news greatly surprised her. She remembered moments from her childhood when the two of them were just starting to train. Even though Emily was younger than Becky, she was a quick learner and grasped everything on the fly. She had great potential. But because of her superior inner spiritual root, she was forcibly taken away. Becca begged her teacher not to take away Emily's spiritual root, but the teacher was adamant, because if it were developed, then she would have no equal at all. That night, when the teacher decided to forcefully take away Emily's spiritual root, Becca independently severed all ties with her. She chose school over loyalty to her sister. Was she still alive? Becca couldn't believe it. Tears streamed down her face, and she thanked Steve for saving her beloved sister. Steve confirmed that she is alive, but now she urgently needs her spiritual roots. He was sure Becca knew where they were. Suddenly, a sword flew right next to Steve's head. It was Becky's teacher, who was unhappy that Steve dared to pester his students right in the middle of the fight. Steve should die for his insolence. An armada of students rushed at Steve in battle, but Steve didn't understand what the problem was, because having physical contact even during a fight is quite normal. But if they decided to die, then it's only their choice. But when Steve turned around, all the attackers stopped because they saw that his erect penis was protruding from his clothes. The old teacher thought that Steve had such a reaction to him, became shy and said that the old man might not agree. The Blue Feather Warriors discussed that Steve simply could not be a great prophetic son due to his behavior. Perhaps the third eye is acting up a little. Steve said that the old man had nothing to do with it, and he was not having such a reaction to him. His erection ended and Steve said it was time for them to get down to business. Steve demanded that the old man return Emily's spiritual root to him, but the old man pretended that he did not understand what he was talking about. Indeed, his student disappeared a few days ago, but he had nothing to do with it. Steve laughed and began to clap his hands. Since an old man can lie like that and not change his face at all, it's understandable why he became a teacher. The old man said that Steve was talking nonsense, and gave the order to his students to capture him because he pestered their student and disgraced her in front of everyone. Steve said that he would not want to fight with them, but since they all demanded together, he will do them such an honor. He said that he was a kind person and would not make them suffer, after which he snapped his fingers. The most harmless weapon appeared right above him. He aimed the bazooka at the students, but they had never seen such a weapon and did not know what they should expect. School Principal M calmly sipped her tea, and was also surprised by the appearance of a mysterious weapon. With the words "eat," Steve fired a bazooka straight into the crowd of students. The explosion scattered the students in different directions. Those students who managed to avoid the explosion began to scatter in different directions. The school principal, in a rage, ordered the 2 strongest warriors to deal with this impudent person. Steve calmly walked up to the old man's lifeless body, kicked it, and said that if anyone else wanted to take it, they could look at it and guess what would happen to it. A group of the best warriors from School M have already approached Steve. Since they want it so much, Steve can feed them without any problems, after which he aimed his bazooka at them. But when I pulled the trigger, nothing happened. The bazooka only had 1 missile. Steve was not prepared for this turn of events. As soon as the warriors realized that Steve's magical weapon had stopped working, they immediately turned on him. Steve was a little upset that his bazooka had failed him. He was beaten by the crowd, but Becca hoped Steve could still win. She couldn't look at it anymore. She quickly ran up and covered Steve's body with her body. She whispered in his ear that she would find a way to escape from school. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Even though she failed to help her sister the first time, now she will find a way to do it. The warriors threw Becca aside so that she would not interfere with them continuing to beat Steve. Steve lay on the ground, bleeding, and the warriors stopped beating him. He coughed up blood, and he said since they defeated him, and today he will die anyway, then finally, maybe they will tell where Emily's spiritual root is. The headmaster of the school, M, seemed to come up to him as if on wings. The students began to discuss among themselves that the strength of the school principal M was not inferior to the gods themselves. Since Steve was going to die today anyway, she admitted that she had Emily's spiritual roots. Steve tried to get up and now realized who was responsible for selling Emily's spiritual roots. She laughed and said that the path to immortality is long, and eating the spiritual roots of young students greatly helps her in this. Steve was angry because human life meant nothing to her. She licked her lips and said that for a cultivator, human life is just a means to an end. The director said that if Steve wants to take away her spiritual roots, then he is no better than her, because life, in essence, consists of the strong eating the weak. A girl from the Blue Feather clan wanted to rush to help, but her uncle stopped her, because she would definitely lose in this battle. The director turned to Becca and said that she would like to get her spiritual roots. With a wave of her hand she began to pull her towards her. The director's strength was enormous. She held Becca aloft with one hand. This will happen to anyone who goes against the headmaster and School M. Becca screamed in pain. But the headmaster didn't care. She ordered her to keep her eyes open and look at her when she did it. The director's hand touched Becky's stomach. It pierced her, and Becca screamed as pain ran through her entire body. The director threw the girl's exhausted body to the ground and asked if anyone else wanted to try to get in her way. Now Becky also had no spiritual roots. Steve looked at Becca and pity mixed with a feeling of revenge filled his mind. The director took Steve's bazooka and wanted to test this never-before-seen weapon. He killed many of her henchmen, and now she will kill him with this weapon. As soon as she pulled the trigger, a powerful explosion occurred. But this explosion was clearly not near Steve. The smoke began to clear just near the director. Steve laughed and said that he just wanted to play with her. Unfortunately for the director, he deliberately mined the bazooka, and just when the trigger was touched it exploded. However, Steve was surprised that the director was able to survive. Apparently she is very strong. Now the director was seriously angry. How dare he deceive her? Steve said that now he will show the director who is good and who is evil, who is strong and who is weak. He suggested that she herself give up her spiritual roots, or he will take them by force. She showed the ring she was wearing on her finger, and said that the founder of the M school had left it to her. It was capable of blocking 3 blows from an immortal. And even if Steve had reached the 21st stage of cultivation, the blow would not affect her. The bomb was the first blow. And here comes the second blow. Steve rushed to the attack. The ring immediately worked, and the second blow was also blocked. But it was immediately followed by a third blow, and after it, at the speed of light, the fourth powerful blow that completes the attack. The last blow sent the director flying high into the sky. And here comes the final blow. Steve jumped high, and with all his inner power attacked the director from above, which crushed her to the ground. This impact created a hole of enormous depth. The director could not believe what was happening. These blows did not kill her, but her body was severely damaged. Steve couldn't be immortal. Why didn't the ring protect her? It's probably just broken and needs to be fixed. This kid simply didn't know how strong she was. And as soon as she returned, revenge would not be long in coming. The director was about to fly away. But she felt Steve's presence behind her, and a whisper that he wouldn't let her go. After which Steve unleashed his power on her again and slammed her into the ground. The director began to struggle and scream like a corrupt girl. She threatened Steve that if he didn't let her go, her family and school would grind him into dust. With a slight movement of his hand, he tore out its spiritual root. Steve was not at all worried about the threats uttered, because he had found what he wanted. He raised her hand, which was wearing a ring. He took the ring off his finger and decided to give it to someone who really needed help. After that, Steve touched her head, and internal energy began to destroy the director's body. He leaned towards her and quietly whispered the saying that what goes around comes around. And to be completely honest, it was he who opened the M school. Steve approached Becca and said that he didn't protect her right away because she hurt Emily that night, but because she covered him with her body, he will help her now. After which he placed his hand on her stomach and began to heal the wounds. Becca had to understand what she allowed to be done to her sister. From now on, she should not even think about enmity with Emily. She asked him not to leave. She grabbed him by the clothes. She wanted to tell Emily something. What exactly? Steve asked. Everyone around was discussing what had happened and could not believe that some young guy had won over the director. However, now the people of the Blue Feather clan were confident that they had found the prophetic son. Over the course of millions of years, only 2 emperors were able to cultivate into true immortals. Below the immortals are only those who were able to cultivate to the 21st stage. In the Blue Feather clan there are only 2 of them. For many years no one could even reach the 21st stage. The wars of the Blue Feather clan said that the prophetic sun is like a star in a clear sky. But the uncle had a premonition that this would not last long, and the world would soon change. The teacher returned to his school. It was already quite late, but the light was on, were his students really waiting for him? He heard laughter behind the wall. Steve poked a small hole in the parchment. He decided to see what was happening there. Darcy gave Emily a massage. Emily's skin was so tender that Darcy could not resist, and began to lick it. Emily began to arch in pleasure. Darcy gently licked Emily's back, and received incredible pleasure. Her skin was like her favorite dessert. Steve couldn't stay on his feet and fell. The girls behind the wall heard this and realized that someone was there. They left the warm bath, throwing light towels over themselves. As soon as Darcy saw the teacher, she, without hesitation, rushed into his arms and reported in detail that during his absence she had been caring for her 6th sister, as he had ordered. The teacher praised Darcy and said that she can be relied on. Now she can go to rest, and tomorrow a surprise awaits her. Darcy immediately obeyed him, and wished him and Emily good night. Emily asked Steve where he had been for so long. Emily suspected that Darcy knew where Steve was, but didn't specifically tell her. Steve took out a spiritual root from his pocket, and said that he was leaving to return it to her. Emily couldn't believe her eyes, but the teacher had her spiritual root in his hands. The teacher handed it to Emily and asked what she was waiting for, but Emily couldn't believe that he did it for her. He raised her hand and said that the spiritual root was now returning to its real owner. Steve put the spiritual root in her hand, but asked her not to swallow it right away, because she had not yet fully recovered, and this could only harm her. The teacher remembered that he was also asked to convey a message for Emily. Her sister asked him to tell Emily that she couldn't do anything that night, and asks her forgiveness for that. Emily was confused. She did not expect to hear such a message. The teacher said that he did not care what happened to her sister in the future. He only hoped that Emily would stop hating him, because she was his student, and they still had a lot to do. Suddenly Emily began to change again. The dark power began to awaken in her again. Her voice had changed and was eager to take over her body. Her eyes turned red again and she laughed. Emily hugged the teacher sharply. He began to move his hand over his genitals. She asked the teacher to allow her to thank him for the work she had done. The teacher could barely contain his sexual fantasies. Emily started licking his neck, and at that very moment I wanted to bite off part of his tender flesh. But the teacher struck in time with spiritual energy. The impact caused Emily's body to fall unconscious to the ground, and a dark spirit emerged from it. The demon told the teacher that Emily's body belonged to him, and he had no right to take her. But the teacher began to cast a spell. Now he knew exactly who he was fighting, because 100 years ago he had already defeated this demon. All the dark energy of the demon began to be sucked into a whirlpool. Although he disappeared, he promised to return soon. Now the demon should not escape. The teacher cast a spell on Emily, although it was very powerful, but it could only temporarily seal the demon that lived in Emily's body. Emily began to wake up. When she got out of bed, she couldn't understand why she fell asleep and why her whole body ached so much. Steve didn't want to scare her, and said she just fell and lost consciousness. She looked at the teacher in disbelief, but did not feel any traces of sexual intimacy on her body, so she had no choice but to simply believe him. She began to thank the teacher for everything he did for her, and promised to be a good student. Now the teacher was calm, everything was in order, and he went to rest. Before leaving, he reminded Emily that tomorrow was a training session where he would give her something big. Emily had little idea what the teacher meant. In the morning, Emily came to training, but she didn't understand why it was just the two of them, and where everyone else was. The teacher said that everyone else is on vacation, but beginners at the basic level are not given vacations. Emily was embarrassed, because this meant that now they would spend all the time together. She asked the teacher what he wanted to give her today. Steve was talking about new fighting techniques, because her current technique didn't fit her spiritual root. Emily was angry. With her techniques she had already reached the 4th level of cultivation. She had trained it for so many years, and now it was useless. But since Emily was so insistent on the power of her technique, the teacher offered her a bet. If she breaks a wooden dummy with her technique, then he will listen to her. If not, then he will not even listen. Emily gathered her strength. She couldn't wait to show the teacher how strong her technique was. With great speed, she struck with an invisible fist. She cooled her hand and said with confidence that her blow from the invisible fist was quite good. But when she opened her eyes she was very surprised. After all, one of her most powerful blows only slightly damaged the wooden mannequin, but it didn't even crack. Steve laughed and said that her strike should be called turtle rather than invisible. She was dying of shame, because she was confident in her technique. Emily did not understand why the wooden dummy did not break, because she had already broken trees with her blows more than once. She accused the teacher that this dummy was fake. Steve said that he did not fake it, it was simply made of a special tree, and ordinary blows had nothing to do with it. But Emily demanded a simple dummy, then she would show her strength. The teacher said that the bet was already lost anyway, because they were betting on this particular mannequin, after which he asked her to look to the side. The wreckage of old mannequins lay nearby. The teacher said that this was the work of his students. Heaps of destroyed mannequins lay nearby. Emily was amazed that so many wooden mannequins could be destroyed, and she absolutely couldn't do it. She was a little upset, but the teacher hastened to calm her down, because if she practices his technique, she will be able to destroy no less. In total, there were 7 well-known techniques, divided into ordinary, spiritual, supreme, royal, heavenly, holy and immortal levels. The teacher did not yet know which specific technique would suit Emily, and they had to choose. He took out many ancient parchments with fighting techniques written on them. The teacher began to talk about the techniques, but Emily could not restrain herself and simply fell into a pile of manuscripts and parchment. She was lying in the parchment, and couldn't believe that she would ever be able to learn a celestial level technique. It was one of the happiest moments of her life that the teacher began to select the parchment in order to select the best technique to match her spiritual root. He found the Kai Ci technique. She snatched the manuscript from his hands and could not believe her eyes, because she had only heard stories about this technique, but had never seen the person who practiced it. Emily couldn't even imagine that she would ever learn a heavenly rank technique. Then, out of happiness, she pressed her tightly to her chest. First, the teacher asked her to wipe off her drool as they would look for something more suitable for her. She asked what could be better than this technique. They headed to Lu Wei's workshop. Emily asked the teacher if they had come to the right place, because it was an abandoned house overgrown with moss and cobwebs. The teacher knocked loudly on the door and asked to open it. The door swung open sharply, and the owner of the house was clearly not happy that they had disturbed his sleep. Steve greeted Mason, who was clearly not happy to see him. Steve hugged Mason and said that he was just passing by. But he couldn't be fooled. He said that Steve never comes just like that. Old weapons that had been in battles many times lay everywhere. Emily was even a little upset, because she doubted that a good weapon could be found among this trash. But she couldn't be confused by appearance alone. Mason said that there were no problems with the weapons, and Steve immediately promised him 2 pieces. Mason was not happy with his offer, and said that he needed 20 pieces. And let Steve not pretend to be a fool that he didn't have that much, and if he doesn't like the proposal, then he can get out of here. Steve almost lost his temper, but restrained himself and offered 5 grand. Trading became more and more aggressive, and everyone offered their own price. The weapons in the store were destroyed by a light touch, Emily couldn't even imagine what kind of weapon Steve wanted to buy her. Eventually Steve ran out of patience and agreed to 10. It was instant noodles. Mason was completely satisfied with this deal. With a huge smile on his face, Mason said goodbye to his clients and said that as soon as the weapon was ready, he would send it. Steve was beside himself with rage. He had never conducted such long negotiations before. They walked along the forest path back to school. Emily pestered Steve with questions about the weapons he ordered her, and why he was trading magic weapons for boxes of noodles. Steve said that a person of his level chooses what is really valuable to him, because he is a wholly 100-year-old blacksmith. Emily couldn't believe it, and jokingly said that if that guy is a 100-year-old holy blacksmith, then Steve is the emperor. But Steve didn't take it as a joke and said in all seriousness that it was there. Emily replied that she was then the empress. 2 blue feather warriors approached the workshop and heard an angry cry that Mason had only received 7 boxes of noodles. The girl's name was Mary, and she asked her uncle Alan if he was sure that they had come to the monastery of the holy blacksmith. Mary said that this dilapidated house was not the most pleasant place. The uncle said that the holy blacksmith does not live like mere mortals, and he can easily live in such a dilapidated house. The door quietly opened in front of them and Mason asked the guests who they were, and why they had come. He was already devouring the first pack of his favorite noodles on the threshold of his house. His uncle greeted him respectfully, and said that they had arrived on a very important matter. Mason was already finishing his noodles and invited them into the house. He said that his prices are huge, and if that doesn't suit them, then they can fail. His uncle came closer to him and said that he was from the Blue Feather Palace, and they urgently needed his help. Mason remembered that since he was a child of the Blue Feather Palace, he carried him in his arms when he was very small. They didn't need weapons, they wanted to repair magic items. Alan carefully took out the box from which the magic stone glowed and crackled. This was the core of the Blue Feather Palace. Mason put on his glasses and took a closer look at it, and could not understand how this could happen, because this core was about to collapse. They didn't know the reason for what happened, but they begged Mason to fix it, at least for a while. Mason agreed, but it remained a mystery to him why the core could collapse so quickly. Mary asked her uncle whether the blacksmith could cope with such a difficult task. The uncle said that he was a strong blacksmith. His talent was accepted even by the emperor, and especially since they had no other choice. At this time, Steve and Emily were already walking through the busy city. Suddenly, in the middle of the city, they saw a brawl in which Albert also took part. Albert was beating some man. The man was covered in bruises and begged for mercy. The teacher loudly and rudely asked Albert what he was doing here. Albert walked away from the poor fellow lying on the ground and was very surprised when he saw the teacher and Emily. The teacher again asked what he was doing here, to which Albert replied that he came to this pub to find a job, but they offered to give them a blowjob, and ended up suffering from their offer. Steve knew that Albert was short of money only because he had lost everything in gambling. If he had not been addicted to it, then there would have been no problems. Albert expected the teacher to start scolding him, but he patted him on the shoulder and said that he was in a good mood today, so he would give him the opportunity to recoup. But if he loses, then he will promise never to play again. At this time, Emily was thinking how Albert could give a blowjob, because he also has an elephant. She began to mark something in her notebook, but Steve and Albert, who turned around, hurried her and asked her to keep up. She hastily hid her notebook behind her back, but Steve saw it and asked to see what she wrote down there. She sketched all the people she met and briefly described them so that later she would not forget about their actions. They came to a casino called Thunderstorm. It was noisy inside and many people were trying to catch their luck by the tail. A group of people who knew Albert well were sitting at one of the tables. They began to joke about him and asked him to play with them, because he could lose money very well. He was beside himself with rage and wanted to beat them thoroughly for their insolence. The teacher boldly approached the girl and said that he was not afraid of anything and was immediately ready to play big. She gently touched his chest with her hand, and she tenderly asked what he meant when he said that he was ready to play big. Steve said it was a lot bigger than she could imagine and suggested they play dagger throwing. The girl said that the most exciting game awaits them. Albert said that Steve loses his head at the sight of beautiful women, and now he will definitely lose everything. But Emily did not like the fact that the teacher was hugging some other girl. The girl immediately led him to the dagger throwing area, and now they sat down at the table to play. Albert said that it was very easy to lose in this game, but he could show the secret technique. But the teacher stopped him, because if he knew the secret technique, he would not have problems with money. Albert fell silent and motioned to start the game. The game required the use of spiritual energy, after which you must throw 5 daggers and bet a certain number of coins on the number. Albert bet 100 gold pieces on number 7. If more than one dagger does not fall in the place of the chosen number, this will mean a loss. Everyone was waiting for the game to start. Emily understood the rules of the game, and realized that it was very easy to lose. But why then did Albert bet so much money? Because he could lose everything in an instant. He said that he warned the teacher about the difficulty of the game, and was already accustomed to parting with his money easily. But it was Emily's money that she simply lent to Albert. The teacher hastily began to calm her down, and promised that Albert would return the debt to her along with interest. The girl asked if they were ready to start. Steve bet 500 gold. He chose hole number 0. The girl from the casino liked men with big money, and she began to feel more and more sympathy for Steve. Steve moved closer and, without saying anything, touched the girl's breasts. He felt the girl's breasts in detail, and asked if they were real or not. She was shy and said that her body was clean and natural. Steve had been staring at her breasts from the very beginning, and now he just started touching them in front of everyone. Steve pulled back and said that it looked like her breasts were actually real. Well, now they can start the game. Steve happily granted her this right. The daggers fell onto the board. What a surprise it was when one of the daggers landed right in cell number 0. The rival couldn't believe her eyes. Everyone around was rejoicing in victory. The teacher looked at his rival. He asked her why she was making such a face. Did she really understand that she could not control the dagger? She realized that the teacher had taken advantage of the moment when he was pawing her breasts. The teacher picked up the dagger from the table and began to twirl it on his finger, while asking Albert if he wanted to know why he couldn't win. Of course, he could be unlucky or play poorly, but the most important thing is that the daggers are her magical weapons, and she can control them with ease. She cheated, the teacher said, and pressed the dagger to her throat. Steve looked at the girl with a smile and a sense of accomplishment. With the dagger at her throat, she immediately began to apologize and ask for forgiveness. The crowd began to rage. No one liked the scam. They were ready to tear it apart. The girl began to concentrate her spiritual energy, and everyone fell silent and waited for what she would do. But the girl disappeared into thin air. She used teleportation and was already on her way to her master to report what had happened. Several hours passed, and she was already there. Mr. Douglas did not spare those who brought him problems. The advisor said that a guy had arrived to the gentleman, who had been beaten for no reason, and he was asking for help, to which the gentleman ordered him to be brought to him. Mr. Douglas was a cruel and richest man in the area, and many issues were resolved only through him. 3 beaten guys entered the palace and saw how the master's guards were carrying out the body of a beaten girl. The gentleman asked not to pay attention to it, and asked what happened to them. One of the guys took out a piece of parchment and showed it to the master, saying that today he was beaten by a girl drawn on the parchment. It so happened that the person he was looking for brought some dangerous gambler to the casino today, so the master also needed this girl. He ordered his thugs to bring her to him. Steve and his students were returning to school along a forest path. On the way, Albert asked why the teacher let the deceiver girl go, to which Steve replied that mercy should always be shown. On the road, bandits were already waiting for them, who would like to ask them a few questions. The bandits said that the casino was not created for winnings. 3 ferocious mutants were ready to tear our heroes to shreds. Without waiting for long, they rushed to the attack. The bull chose Albert as his victim, but Albert was ready and dodged the attack. The bull flew past him, breaking everything in its path. He stopped and didn't understand where Albert had gone. Albert sat on a tree and looked at the stupid, angry bull. At this time, a snake was chasing Emily. Albert thought Emily had problems, but he thought that it would be better for the teacher to save her and become a hero in her eyes. The teacher stood still and was in no hurry to save anyone. This was a good chance to test the student's capabilities, but he didn't understand why no one attacked him for so long. The falcon sat on a tree and watched the teacher as if he were easy, unprotected prey. For a falcon, prey that did not run away was easy prey, and the teacher was glad that someone had finally attacked him. The falcon lifted the teacher higher into the air. Emily was upset that she couldn't help the teacher, but first she needed to help herself. The snake has already begun to lick his lips from the understanding of what a sweet prey he got. The snake said that Emily's body is just beautiful, but with this chain it will look even better. He began to attack Emily with a chain and asked her not to resist, but to let the old man decorate her. From the next blow, the chain wrapped around Emily's leg and the snake dragged her towards him. She fell to the ground and the snake began to slowly approach the defenseless Emily. He had already begun to lick his lips, because he liked this position so much. The snake waved the chain again and said that he needed to teach the girl a lesson. The chain hit Emily's body hard, causing her to scream. From the blow, Emily's dress tore on her chest, and only the remnants of the fabric covered her chest. It could not be allowed to continue like this. The snake said that he would make Emily obedient, because the more she resists, the more the chains tighten her. Emily thought about how she could get out of this situation. She couldn't defeat him, but his breathing became unsteady, and he seemed aroused by the sight of her bare breasts, and she had an idea. She stopped resisting and lifted her already short skirt a little higher. She began to spread her legs and asked the snake to be a little more gentle with her. The old man became even more excited. Had the little beauty really become obedient? As soon as the snake let go of the chains and lay down on her, she kicked him in the groin with all her might. I sent him away, and with all her might she hit him in the jaw with her knee. From this blow, the snake flew several meters to the side. Emily thought her plan had worked well. He was so excited that he didn't even think about fighting. He pressed himself against the tree and began to threaten her. How dare she mock the old man? He threatened to drink all the blood from her and make her a doll. She turned her butt towards him and said that if the old man still had strength left, he could try to catch up with her. Emily knew that although she was not strong in battle, she was an excellent runner. The old man ran after her without stopping. Emily understood that if the enemy is several times stronger than you, then you need to be able to retreat. She ran and thought that the teacher had been kidnapped by a falcon and he needed help. At this time, the teacher was drinking tea with his old friend, Teacher Christian, and they were watching what was happening in the projection. Steve told Christian about his new student, but Christian didn't understand why Steve didn't help her because she was in trouble, but he said it was part of the training. Christian joked that it was immediately clear that this was his student, because she did not defeat the enemy, but quickly ran away from him. Steve said that her body is not very strong yet, but very beautiful. Christian suddenly said that it was too hot today. Hanging on a tree, the beaten falcon flapped its wings with all its might, creating a breeze for the teachers. The falcon begged not to be angry with him. He tried his best. He was just a little knocked down. The falcon could not even imagine that he would face a warrior of such strength. Steve ordered him to flap his wings quickly, otherwise he would rise and help him. But the falcon waved, begging him with all his might not to beat him anymore. Christian suggested that Steve leave his student to him to practice a little. Meanwhile, the snake was chasing Emily, and was getting closer to her every minute. Emily's strength was already running low, and she jumped onto a tree to rest a little. She couldn't help but run away from the snake and hide, but she couldn't defeat him either, because he was much stronger than her. The snake ran very close to the tree and with one sharp blow of its chain cut the tree branch, causing Emily to fall face down. But she miraculously managed not to crash and land on her feet. Suddenly she heard the teacher's voice. He was descending from the sky to her in a ball. This means he has already defeated his opponent, and has come to save her. Emily sank into the ball, and the snake stopped seeing her. It was just a hologram, and the teacher continued to play. Steve warned Emily that the orb only lasts for 10 minutes, so she should hurry up and defeat her opponent when the orb ends. Steve was not happy with Emily, because she had a chance to win, but she did not take advantage of it, and just ran away. This was not the right thing to do. He said that Emily worries too much and gets lost, which makes her even more vulnerable. Emily was really worried a lot. It bothered her even more after Steve's words. He hugged her from behind and told her that she needed to take care of herself before protecting others. Steve told her not to lose heart and go to the end. The whole problem was this old pervert's chain. Because of it, it was impossible to get closer to him. He encouraged Emily and told her to find his weaknesses and then act with confidence and determination. The snake did not see her, and continued to search. Emily was energized and ready to fight the old man again. The bath disappeared, and the old man immediately saw her. She said that he was just an old pervert, but now he will come to an end. Emily immediately began to quickly run around him. He couldn't figure out where exactly Emily would appear, and simply circled around in place after her. A few minutes later the old man felt very dizzy. Emily noticed this and chose the moment. Then she dealt a crushing blow directly to the snake's face. The old man lost almost all his teeth from a blow from his palm, after which it flew several meters upward, breaking through the tip of the slope with its body. Victory was hers, and now she needed to get away quickly. The teacher's voice in her head praised her, but her blow did not kill her opponent, but only stunned her, so she needed to hide in the forest, and the teacher would then come for her. She obediently ran through the forest and looked for a place where she could hide. Meanwhile, Albert found the defeated snake, but neither the teacher nor Emily was there. Albert didn't know where the teacher and Emily were, but since the snake was defeated, everything was fine with her, and she could return to school. Meanwhile, at school, everyone was doing their own thing. Suddenly, the school gates were forcefully opened from the back side. The soldiers who entered the school said that the school was surrounded, and that no one should think about running away. The students certainly did not expect such guests. The fighters did not understand why none of the students were shaking with fear or running. They answered in unison that they were busy right now, but they could deal with them sometime. The fighters lowered their tone and politely asked where the people they were looking for lived, after which they showed the students sketches depicting the teacher, Albert, and Emily. Everyone said that they had never seen these people. Then the fighters apologized for the disturbance, and decided to leave quickly, because the students did not look friendly at all. Albert saw a bunch of weak fighters running from the school, but he didn't know what they were doing there. He picked up one of the leaflets the soldiers had dropped and read it. It was in the leaflet that he saw that he and his friends were wanted. Meanwhile, the teacher and Christian were thinking over a plan for Emily's further training. It's time to get down to business and work on her weaknesses. She and Christian began their transformation. Steve asked Christian to believe in himself and his acting skills. Christian played the role of Becky, and Steve played the role of Emily's former mentor. Steve, suddenly in a cheerful mood, decided to make a joke and grabbed Christian by the chest, causing surprised glances around and an awkward smile on his friend's face. Unexpectedly, Christian, stunned by the invasion of his personal area, instantly responded with a punch to Steve's face, which led to a frozen moment of tension and mixed emotions for everyone present. Suddenly Steve decided to play a joke by grabbing Christian by the chest, but he responded with a blow to the face. Christina was tormented by the thought of whether girls were interested in groping themselves, just like Steve did. He was delighted to realize how wonderful it was to be a girl, enjoying the freshness of new sensations and the beauty of the moment in which he felt part of another world. The man strictly insisted that the girl not express her originality, and follow the prescribed script, asserting her power in this performance of life. In the tested tower, the girl rested, lying on the floor, thinking about her experiences and the difficulties she had overcome. The faint light of the lamp barely illuminated the room where Emily, exhausted and wounded, struggled with the last moments of her life, trying to stay on the line between darkness and light, which merged in the inevitable end. She was barely aware of her location and was vaguely aware that she was inside some kind of tower, her mind struggling in a hazy way with the dizzying reality. She could not solve the mystery. For some reason the strength left her, and the girl rushed powerlessly in search of answers, puzzled by her ignorance. Having decided to forget about the lost physical strength, she wisely decided to use spiritual strength, finding in it a source of inner confidence and the necessary determination. Fate was incomprehensible to her. It turned out that even spiritual power was slipping out of her control, and the girl faced a new challenge to helplessly resist unknown forces. Only after going through trials could one be freed from the clutches of this mysterious tower, which suppressed spiritual energy, making the path out even more difficult and dangerous. Emily realized that it was necessary for someone to come, and in this realization, new hope awoke for salvation from the dark castle where her spiritual energy was suppressed. And so it happened. Some savior looked into her, bringing with him a ray of light into the dark world of her trials, and at that moment the hidden hope and relief awakened in her heart. The man and girl who found themselves at her doorstep immediately recognized Emily, and the joy of meeting lit up their faces, as if giving the promise of a new, liberated beginning. The man who asked if she knew how to properly greet a teacher reminded her that this was something that had to be taught in the sect, instilling a vague sense of obligation. Emily reported that when she was sent to retrieve her spiritual roots, the man did not remember that she was his student, creating a confusing history of past and present. The girl, irritated, demanded that Emily show respect to the master, creating a tense atmosphere in the room and emphasizing the complexity of her current situation. Emily only dryly replied that the girl should not dream about it, emphasizing her determination and refusal to submit to the will of the master at this moment of difficult trials. Realizing that now was not the time to delve deeper into these discords, Emily realized that she first needed to deal with what was there, and with focus she went to the root of the problem. At the same time, realizing the powerlessness of using spiritual power, Emily realized that fighting against two at once, using only martial arts, seemed impossible. Instantly realizing the need to change tactics, Emily rushed to her bow and arrow, preparing for a new phase of struggle in this closed world of trials. Knowing that she needed to be the first to strike, Emily decided not to give in, this time willing to stand her ground and not allow herself to escape. In a split second, she fired the arrows from her bow, aiming them with precision and determination that reflected her willingness to face any challenge. Of course, the arrows darted towards the master, reflecting the energy of Emily's determination and steadfastness in confronting unknown forces. Fortunately, the girl managed to protect the master, creating a moment of confusion and an unexpected turn in this tense scenario. The man noticed that even though the girl was not his sister, she was able to challenge the teacher, while Emily was still hoping for the same. The girl asked if the master believed that he was in control and knew her perfectly, expressing doubts about his exceptional abilities of understanding and control. The 3 arrows Emily fired seemed to be just a warm-up for her confident display of strength in front of the master and the girl, leaving a hint that the main tests were yet to come. The fun was just beginning, Emily thought, feeling an undying fire of determination within her, ready to face whatever challenges this unpredictable world of trials would bring. The girl noticed that Emily had outstanding speed, capturing her rapid movement with genuine admiration, which was mixed with a feeling of some anxiety. Indeed, Emily moved with amazing speed, and this observed characteristic confirmed the reality of the girl, leaving a piece of respect in her admiring eyes. The man asked if she really believed that those arrows could have any effect against them, expressing doubt about the power of her actions and challenging her to explain. Unfortunately for the girl, one of the arrows still hit her accurately, scattering through the air and causing surprise among everyone present. As it turned out, the arrow hit the girl right in the chest, causing instant tension in the air and causing everyone to hold their breath, assessing the seriousness of the situation. The man, looking anxiously at what had happened, noticed that the arrow had hit the girl's chest, and added ironically that it was difficult to be a girl when even her chest became a target. Emily listened carefully to the girl's words, calling her a petite cutie, and a determined look flashed in her eyes, ready to fight back against the underestimation of her strength. The girl turned sharply after these words, her face expressing surprise and uncertainty, not expecting such a decisive reaction from Emily. Emily had explosives in her hands, instantly causing surprise and anxiety in the girl and the master, revealing a new advantage in this unpredictable struggle. This was undoubtedly her ingenious plan to achieve victory, and Emily looked at her opponents with confidence, noticing the surprise and worry in their eyes. A split second later, Emily threw explosive arrows, creating a moment of surprise that could change the course of the fight and highlight her desire for victory. The girl was amazed that Emily had such a magical weapon, and bewilderment flashed in her eyes, trying to comprehend the new aspect of this unusual confrontation. Oddly enough, a split second later an explosion echoed all around, leaving behind only a moment of incredible tension and shock. Emily pointedly asked her, continuing to emphasize her strength, if they all still thought she was just cute when she had such destructive power in her hands. The system announced that the winner had been determined and proposed to pull out the spiritual roots of the loser, ending this strange duel in a world of trials and challenging events. Without fulfilling this condition, the girl could not pass to the next level, and she realized that now she had to accept her defeat and pull out her spiritual roots. Emily was surprised that they had decided to take such measures against her, leaving her with mixed feelings of amazement, disappointment, and bitterness. Just once, Emily thought, feeling that this unusual fight had left a mark on her life that could not be erased. Now they will probably realize how much it hurt her at that moment, Emily reflected, leaving them with an uneasy understanding and aftertaste of their confrontation. Doubts suddenly took possession of her, because she could not believe that she was capable of such actions, leaving a mark of irreconcilable internal conflict in her soul. She suddenly thought about something, simply falling silent, as if her internal dialogue was taking away her words and forcing her to peer into the foggy depths of her thoughts. She began to remember moments with the teacher, fragments of lessons and instructions surfaced in her memory, and vague emotions took possession of her again, creating a complex cocktail of experiences. The teacher gave her spiritual roots, taking the chance to live again. She promised to get rid of her hatred, taking them away from the two, but added a warning that the teacher, sister, and brothers would be disappointed with her action. Having decided to take such an action, she does not want to disappoint the people who gave her a new life, and this thought lies like a depressing shadow in her inner world. Emily reported that she was giving up, as if raising a white flag in retreat, and in her eyes there was a feeling of weariness from struggle and internal conflicts. It seems that she is not able to do this. She is tired of waiting until the teacher finds her in this complex labyrinth of tests. Unexpectedly for her, the system congratulated her on passing her first martial arts test, adding a mysterious touch to this story of struggle and self-discovery. Of course, she was delighted because she managed to complete the level, and the joy of victory dispelled the shadow of previous doubts and struggles in her heart. And only now the girl realized that the real meaning of the test is not in the victory itself, but in how you will now bypass the losers, realizing the depth of this experience and its influence on the inner world. The system informed her that the girl needed to prepare for the transition to the second level, opening a new chapter in her path of trials and challenges. Christian couldn't understand how long they needed to lie there. The teacher, with a look full of mystery, mysteriously asked Christian to share his power, magic floating in the air between them, causing excitement in the young man's heart. Christian, with a stern expression on his face, told Steve that he had no time to talk. Time had become a priceless artifact, slipping between his fingers. Emily, stunned, could not understand the meaning of the tests, because she was invariably haunted by a mystery in which she was lost, in search of answers to eternal questions. The unexpected happened to her. Her clothes suddenly began to come off, a mystery finding its solution, revealing an unpredictable path in the world of feelings and passions. Christian expressed his confidence by saying that indeed they were skinning him. He found himself in a dangerous game where the stakes were high, and the truth was a valuable trophy. To keep Christian's attention from what was happening, you said something mesmerizing, a spell to keep his eyes from wandering around this world. The teacher, with an expression of authority, declared that, of course, only he was given the right to look at his student. He was the guardian of the forbidden treasure. And it was wrong, a melody of boundless regret, sounding in silence, where right and wrong merged into an indistinguishable outline. In any case, the decision is made in the wind. It can go, leaving behind a trail of mysterious possibilities and uncertainty. A split second later the teacher returned. Time slowed down for the important moment, returning him with a mysterious look full of unexpected revelations. Emily, in bewilderment, could not understand why. As soon as she entered, she was attacked. Fate predetermined that she would face invisible trials from the very threshold. The girl's clothes became smaller and smaller, like magic, revealing her figure, allowing the gaze to glide along the lines of mysterious beauty. Yet, a teacher approached her from behind, an unexpected act in this theater of events, causing excitement and questions in her heart. Emily noticed that lightning doesn't attack this thing, so she could try hiding there. She discovered a safe island in a sea of electrical dangers. The situation amused the teacher, because the girl found a secluded place to hide. She found herself in an ambush, surrounded by people ready for the unexpected. The teacher could not understand why this thing came out again, like a riddle with a hidden meaning, causing bewilderment and curiosity in his eyes. Someone's hand came out of this cauldron, magic, breaking the laws of physics, bringing a share of mysterious unusualness into this world. The teacher was very dissatisfied, because he was greatly annoyed by this thing, an invisible colossus that disturbed peace and caused a storm of indignation in his soul. Amelia crawled out of it, saying that they had not seen each other for a long time and promised to return, a magical moment of meeting that filled the space with hope for future meetings. She said that he taught her a lot last time. Each of his advice was a magic key that opened the door to new knowledge and experience. The girl admitted that now she would give her something special. The air was filled with anticipation, anticipating the moment that would change their relationship. And she asked that there was no need for gratitude. Her desire was to give something more than just a thing, leaving a mark in the heart without words. Of course, the teacher was not going to just give up and prepared for battle. A shadow of determination enveloped him, creating an insurmountable barrier to challenging fate. He said that at the moment he did not want to see her. Temporary solitude was an integral part of his strategy in this complex game of fate. He asked her to give that liquid back now. At that moment, not only secrets were at stake, but also destinies, intertwined in an intricate pattern. Then the girl was attacked by an invisible storm in which the forces of art and defense collided, creating a whirlwind of uncertainty in their confrontation. Then she realized that he had deceived her. The veil of illusions dissipated, leaving her sad and aware of the variability of circumstances. The teacher began to say that she had two options: continue to resist him, or return to the circle and sit still. The proposal was a cosmic crossroads of choice. He advised her to get out of here on her own. An urgent melody sounded about her impending departure, leaving behind a trail of mysterious advice. Now the girl faced a difficult choice. A road opened up before her, branching between the courage of resistance and peaceful retreat. It is easy to invite God, but difficult to see him through. The girl asked the guy if this expression suits her. The words became a bridge between them, carrying wisdom and doubts. The teacher asked why she had so little brains, took the form of a demigod, and she decided that now she could defeat him, as if the challenge had been thrown in a whirlwind of daring confidence. She believed that she didn't look stupid, she didn't want to get involved with anyone, as if there was a gleam of determination and independence in her eyes. And only when she realized that it was he who told her, she became furious. The fire inside flared up, sparkling with displeasure and resentment. The teacher then called himself a beloved grandfather, as if his words contained a grain of irony mixed with mysterious tenderness. Then he used some kind of spell, and the girl found herself in chains, the invisible threads of fate intertwined into a pattern of unexpected circumstances. The teacher clearly acted as needed, and everything was according to plan. He was the master of the dance, directing the course of events in this mysterious game. It's been a long time since his double entered someone's body. The time of internal struggle is long gone, and now the time has come for new strength. It was even difficult for the teacher because he was not used to it. He felt something new inside himself that required adaptation and control. The teacher was told, calling him grandfather, that he was wrong. The mirror of truth reflected his mistakes, calling for introspection and change. Steve said he looked better now, noticing the change in his appearance, and seeing how the new look affected his essence. The teacher said that this, of course, was not necessary, but if he became even a little smarter in the future, he would give him a break, opening up a new perspective in their relationship. The teacher said to stay happily, saying goodbye with a mysterious smile, leaving behind a mystery in the air. Emily was lying unconscious at this time. Her soul temporarily left her body, giving way to inexplicable forces. He needed to make sure that such a phenomenon would not harm her again. He stepped into the role of a guard, protecting her from mystical dangers. But now it's time to move on to the most important thing. Secrets and riddles have given way to solving the most important puzzle in their journey together. Now everything was ready. The puzzles of life fell into a complete picture, awaiting the next important step in their common journey. This test was mainly aimed at testing her physical strength, each step being a chance to show endurance and determination. However, although she had more or less recovered, albeit still weakly, so that she could not continue yet, time was an inexorable judge of her physical readiness. He needed to take this opportunity and get rid of the demon. This moment became the key to freeing himself from the shadows of the past. That you couldn't understand why this thunderball jumped out on its own, a mystery that had no logical explanation was in the air, causing confusion. He realized that this guy was not so simple, because he affected the veins more powerfully than a silver needle. His essence turned out to be a secret hidden behind a mysterious force. This creature was currently trembling very violently with fear. Its shadow was skillfully brought into the light, revealing feelings of vulnerability. The teacher very angrily asked him to come over. His anger was like lightning discharged in the air, waiting for a response. The creature explained that it felt human thanks to the Tree of Dreams, revealing a new chapter in their mutual understanding and connection. He said in every possible way that they would decide to go against the Master, awakening hidden strength in their souls. Well, what did I tell you to keep quiet? Because I didn't ask him either, as if abstaining from questions was part of a secret strategy. In the sunset twilight, Steve asked the question of whether the mysterious creature noticed those invisible points that he accidentally marked on the girl's body. The creature asked what this terrifying work of art was. The teacher, looking sternly at his subordinate, instructed him on the shooting range, asserting that he must wield a weapon with incredible accuracy, aiming and hitting each designated point. The being, full of determination, has already begun the task, taking action with the confidence of one who knows that every step leads to an inevitable result. The teacher at that moment remembered how awkwardly he touched Christian's chest, the sensation of which agitated his consciousness and forced him to reconsider his behavior. The creature admired and said that the teacher had come up with a great plan, expressing his recognition of his strategic skills and ingenuity. Emily began to experience mysterious changes, as if something inexplicable was emerging in her life, intertwined with secrets and exciting events. The present premonition was that she was capable of exploding the water, creating images of untold possibilities in which the jets became gusts of unexpected changes. Steve appealed to remain calm, emphasizing the importance of maintaining composure in a situation that could cause panic. The teacher asserted with confidence that everything would work out, because he was present here, ready to support and ensure success in unknown events. With tenacity, he will direct all his efforts to prevent its explosion, striving to contain the incredible forces that threatened to be unleashed. However, from the expression on the girl's face, it was clearly evident that she was on the verge of an explosion, and could burst out with indefinite energy at any moment. However, after a few seconds everything stabilized, and Emily returned to normal. At the end of the events, the teacher only added the last chord, wishing sweet dreams. At that moment he became a guide to the world of tender and serene dreams. At this time, the teacher collided with Christian, their gazes crossed, creating a moment full of unspeakable tension and unspoken questions. He felt angry because Steve insisted that they would finish in half an hour, and it was today that he finally drove him crazy. The teacher suggested a deeper conversation, believing that after this test it was time to free the girl from the tower, because serious issues require careful consideration. The guy did not share the teacher's opinion, arguing that it was generally accepted that each test subject must complete many more levels before he was allowed to leave the tower. The expression on Christian's face changed sharply. A wind of change passed across the surface of his soul, leaving traces of misunderstanding and possible changes. Something incomprehensible was happening to him. Mysterious forces were working within him, causing mysterious changes that defied easy explanation. He noticed that the teacher was spurring him on again, saying words that provoked his reaction, creating an atmosphere of tension and anticipation around him. Steve suggested that if they were not brothers, then they should at least set an example for each other, challenging each other to a duel with their looks and words. The teacher lay holding the stem of 7 dreams in his hands. He possessed magical power capable of penetrating the secret corners of consciousness and telling his stories. It turned out that this stem was not just an object, but a living one, possessing its own essence, ready to reveal its secrets before the surprised gaze of the teacher. At that moment, Emily opened her eyes, awakening from an unknown dream, where creatures, dream stems and mysterious events were fused into one mysterious whole. She suspected that she had lost consciousness, emerging from the mysterious darkness where dreams and reality were intertwined in an unsteady perception. The girl, named Lesh, could not understand how it happened that the lightning disappeared. They dissolved in the invisible element, leaving her in amazement and misunderstanding. Among other things, her clothes were magically missing, disappearing like shadows before dawn, leaving the girl completely alone and embarrassed. Christian said she had just woken up and insisted she needed to get up quickly, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. He greeted her, informing her that she had successfully passed the second test, and emphasized that she was now free and ready to move forward, walking along the path of unknown adventures. She asked if she needed to take any more actions, given that there were still 3 levels ahead of her, showing readiness for further tests. Christian stated that he is the owner of the test tower, and has the right to do as he pleases. At the moment he is terribly sleepy, so the 3rd level was cancelled. Of course, Emily was shocked when faced with Christian's unexpected announcement about the cancellation of the 3rd level, and her eyes reflected bewilderment and surprise. Christian advised her not to resent her and simply enjoy her freedom, inviting her to forget about past trials and embrace the present moment. She then asked about the awards, beginning to wonder if the guy was lying to her, and there was a note of disbelief and rejection in her voice. Christina could not understand why this couple was so difficult, and in her thoughts there was bewilderment at the mysterious dynamics of their relationship. Then Emily used spiritual power, unlocking the flow of energy in herself, which she directed to solve secret riddles and tests. Christian announced that this was her reward for the second level of the elemental ability called Celestial Thunder, revealing to her new facets of her potential. The girl's eyes lit up with a bright light. Having discovered this ability in herself, she found the key to the long-awaited secrets of her own strength. Emily asked Christian if he meant level 21 elemental energy, expressing her interest in understanding his words more deeply. After this question, her eyes flashed again, expressing obvious excitement and desire to unravel the mysteries that were opening up before her. He replied that she was absolutely right, but warned that it was too early to rejoice, since even with elemental power of this level, her cultivation did not reach level 21. The girl was aware of the difficulty, but she decided to do everything possible to become stronger, directing her determination towards the path of developing and strengthening her strength. Leaving the place, she felt deep joy, knowing that she would now be able to move further along her spiritual path, filled with experience and strength. When she finally emerged from the tower, filled with determination, she decided to try out her new abilities, testing them out and immersing herself in the world of her own power. At that time, she had a charge of 99%, and she was ready to use this energy for the benefit of her spiritual development and the trials that lay ahead of her. Now, among other things, she discovered that she was able to jump very high, adding another exciting feature to her new abilities. Realizing that she now had broad horizons open to her, she decided to try many new things, and an exciting feeling of freedom and possibility began to ring in her heart. It is unclear for what reason, but an energy flash began to destroy the forest around, an unexpected force that could not be controlled, freeing itself from her inner world. Christian asked her to stop the destruction, showing concern and desire to prevent further damage around. Steve noticed that he was already very old and advised him to stop worrying about young people, arguing that such stress could harm his health. The teacher said that next time he would ask to bring him good seedlings, emphasizing the importance of restoring nature after the events that had occurred. After these words, the peasant agreed that the teacher was right and suggested that he take his student and leave, since he really wanted to sleep. Christian warned that they were invisible, and he felt that the teacher could pose a danger to them by expressing concern and uncertainty about their safety. Christian stated that he would go ahead and hope that when they met the teacher, he would be alive and safe. Not far away, he suddenly clenched his fist in anger, expressing his indignation or irritation that had awakened within him. It turned out that in his hand he was holding the very stem that became a symbol of mysterious forces and unexpected events in their lives. And once again repeating the words that he hoped that the teacher was still alive, Christian headed forward, maintaining a shadow of invisibility, as if in search of answers and resolution. Emily continued her joy at her new abilities, enjoying the opportunity to explore her powers and gain control over her incredible abilities. At this time, she noticed a teacher nearby and asked if he had come for her, expressing anticipation and hope for further instructions. With a smile, he asked if she was satisfied with what she received in the gloomy Tower of Trials, where every corner screamed of mysterious secrets and unknown destinies. With joy in her eyes, Emily was delighted to learn that it was he who had personally asked to organize this exciting event, which filled her heart with anticipation and joy. But then, amidst the delight, a small flash of irritation arose in her soul, an invisible shadow that mysteriously flashed through her inner world. No cultivator could discover this place, and only through his acquaintance with them were they able to meet, as if fate itself was telling them secret paths. The teacher announced that she now had the power of an electrical element, and this had its own amazing beauty, as if invisible lightning danced in her inner world. Squeezing her waist, the teacher curiously asked if she would like to join the training, inviting her into a world of exercise full of possibilities and self-improvement. Offering 300 more training matches, he asked if she would take this as a challenge that would help them reach new heights in the art of combat. Emily noted that she was not a naive fool and refused to train with him, expressing her deliberate choice not to fall into the trap of such offers. Steve, avoiding arguments, asked her to wait a little, as if anticipating the moment when they could resolve their differences and continue the path of research together. Deciding to check if there were any monsters nearby, he directed his gaze into the darkness, searching for signs of an unknown danger lurking in the shadows surrounding them. And suddenly, within a few kilometers, an invisible energy wave swept through. An unknown force awakened unprecedented possibilities and mysterious events around them. The teacher will still manage to discover something, as if his persistence and skill begin to reveal long-awaited secrets hidden in the world of possibilities. At the edge of the cliff stood 4 figures, mysterious guardians of the heights, ready to look at what was happening with unwavering attention and wisdom. The dissatisfied guy turned to his sister. A mixture of irritation and concern sounded in his voice. He tried to convey his feelings without unnecessary words. He advised her not to fight or resist, but only to obediently follow them, foreseeing that this could lead to something bigger and more important. In response, she also decided to offer her advice: stop calling her sister, stop telling meaningless stories, cut out her tongue and maybe feed it to the fish. The guy lost his confidence a little after these harsh words. His sister's unexpected reaction turned out to be unusual and incomprehensible for him. The girl said that she intends to be stubborn, and if the guy thinks that Steve is so wonderful, then let him decide the issue of marrying him. Moreover, she already has someone who is destined for her, and this person does not intend to marry in this life, as if the mysterious threads of fate are pulling her in a special direction. Then the girl resolutely launched an attack. The soft wind turned into an uncontrollable storm, spreading around her a lot of verbal lightning and menacing statements. The girl was not ready to wait any longer and began to attack first. Of course, the guys did not intend to give in so easily. The inner fire of determination burned in their eyes, ready to withstand any attacks and challenges. She stated that they were obliged to catch and tie her up, or immediately give way, throwing down a challenge that required decisive action. The guy stated that he did not want to use force against her, but expressed doubt that she realized that, as a young student, she would inevitably get married sooner or later. However, she once again emphasized that she already has someone who is destined for her, persistently reminding her of her special path and choice. He begged her not to deceive, because in recent years she had not been within the sect, but only a few days, and how could she have known about the person destined for her by fate? The teacher, approaching the girl from behind, used a special technique on her, thanks to which she was deprived of the ability to move. Invisible threads held her in an invisible embrace. It is unclear for what reasons, but he suddenly decided to show them his middle finger, expressing his dissatisfaction or disdain for what was happening. By asking if the drama had disappeared because of a strong marriage, he was lifting the veil of secrecy, expecting to hear an answer that could change the course of events. Obviously, they did not know who he was, and on top of that, he boldly interfered in their affairs, like a mysterious figure suddenly appearing in their world with power and authority. He noted that this was, of course, true, because he was her lover, as if revealing the cards and introducing the smell of mysterious love and belonging into the air. He confirmed that, of course, he was her lover, expressing his role in their circumstances with confidence and determination. Naturally, the teacher did not take these threats seriously and asked if he was threatening him, expressing distrust and readiness to face any possible challenges. Steve gave a command to his older sister and said that someone was bullying his younger brother, as if triggering the protective mechanisms of family solidarity. At this time, the guys heard a rustling from behind, as if invisible threads of tension were piercing the air, a harbinger of something unexpected and mysterious. They turned around and noticed that a giant shadow was falling over them, as if a dark image from another dimension was ready to envelop them with its powerful aura. Surprisingly, Emily turned out to be of gigantic proportions, as if her figure had disappeared into the heavenly spaciousness, causing an incredible miracle before the eyes of the guys. And the teacher at that time grabbed the girl and headed somewhere, as if carrying in his hands not only her, but also mysterious riddles and secrets. Suddenly, the teacher was explaining to Emily that using the giant's technique was necessary to make them feel fear, revealing their secret tricks and intrigues. Steve, having chosen not the best place, sat down with the girl right on Emily's chest, creating an unusual atmosphere of tension and surprise. The guy thought that the girl could be one of the legendary giants, born with enormous power, as if facing a living legend right before his eyes. The teacher explained that it was not a matter of their weakness, but that she had gained the power of a celestial body, and now her power had increased significantly. They were no longer able to cope with her power. One of the guys decisively decided to call the master for help, as if realizing that they were facing something stronger and more dangerous than they could have imagined. The spirit of the master appeared before Emily, as if the embodiment of his wisdom and strength, ready to support her in a fight with an unexpected challenge. Of course, she instantly lost her legs under the influence of the manifested spirit. The powerful force of its presence undermined her stability. The teacher and the girl now had to not fall at this moment, supported by mysterious energy, ready to resist the whirlwind of change. Without a doubt, the master was furious, because they offended his students, causing in him irreconcilable indignation and readiness to defend his charges. Emily admitted that she was unable to defeat this ghostly old man, facing a force that she could not appreciate or understand. After this, she began to gradually return to her normal size, going through a mysterious transformation that ended as mysteriously as it began. The teacher recalled that today youth society adheres to combat etiquette, emphasizing the importance of observing rules and norms in combat practices. The master recognized in the teacher the one he was looking for, because he was a member of their family, revealing the secret that connected their destinies. But Steve didn't really listen to him and instantly cast a spell, causing an explosion right in front of his face, demonstrating his determination and strength. The guy begged not to make meaningless speeches and to return to where he came from, trying to end the useless confrontation and resolve the conflict. Emily asked what to do with Grace. She was faced with an unexpected dilemma that required an important decision and advice. At this time, the teacher only stared into the distance. His gaze pierced the secrets of time and space, leaving the moment in a spiral of the unknown. Steve noted that she has also accomplished a lot and continues to strive for excellence, so it's okay to take her along while recognizing her accomplishments and potential. At this time, four suspicious people stood and looked carefully in some direction, secret observers, waiting for their moment. At the entrance to the unknown knowledge, many people crowded. They were eager to penetrate the secret territories of wisdom and knowledge. One of the guys asked if this was the place, as if they were standing on the threshold of a true discovery, ready to look into the depths of the unknown. In the form of a man, that same ghostly master answered him that he was absolutely right, confirming the accuracy of their assumptions before entering the mysterious knowledge. He reported that a sign belonging to his student pointed to this place, revealing the secret hidden behind the symbolism and guiding magic. A man standing nearby commented that this was good, expressing approval or agreement that events were developing in the right direction. He was interested in which side was starting. He expected that the beginning of events would determine the further course of an intriguing drama or battle. In general, the Heavenly Valley has much more combat experience. In addition, it is the representatives of the Heavenly Valley who show respect for elders and love the youth, emphasizing their value and traditions. The black-haired boy noted that now is the time to test the youth, given that the opponents are not familiar with their techniques, and the chances of success become higher, raising morale and motivation. The two boys asked the elder if he had any thoughts regarding this artifact, opening up a dialogue about the mysterious object and its possible significance. At this time, the teacher was rushing somewhere very quickly, rushing forward to carry out an important assignment, or take part in a decisive event. And in just a split second he was practically in front of a crowd of people, rapidly approaching events that required his intervention. He suddenly began shouting for them to pay attention to himself, urging them to turn their gaze to what he considered important or significant. He was furious because they were doing it right here. Emily resolutely intervened, trying to prevent possible troubles, so that he would not lose his temper and bring unnecessary storms into their peace. When she started to lead him in a direction, his face showed displeasure, as if he didn't agree with the current direction she was pointing him. She expressed surprise. The teacher seemed to have lost his mind, not noticing how the big men had gathered together, forming an inconspicuous crowd. Emily was aware of his strength, but despite this, she couldn't help but wonder if he could really handle such an impressive number of enemies, since the task seemed enormous. Emily sternly instructed him, "Don't risk going overboard if you can't defeat them. It's important to think about how to solve this problem now." At that moment, Emily noticed that some kind of whistling sound was tense around her, as if a harbinger of something unusual. It was at this time that Grace rushed towards them, creating a whirlwind of events around her, and ending the tense moment with a whistle in an unexpected turn. This appearance was truly spectacular, a moment out of a movie, causing hearts to skip a beat and attention to focus on the mysterious appearance of Grace. He noted with joy that his little sister had finally appeared, bringing a fresh perspective and positive excitement to their proceedings. There was a noticeable lack of joy in her mood. It was clear from her appearance that she was furious, and was ready to tear to pieces anyone who stood in her way. Emily resolutely started running, because she warned that it was time to hurry up and resolve all issues right here and now, at this moment. The teacher could not understand why she got involved in this, because these were personal affairs of each of them, which did not require his intervention. The girls said that they too were approached for revenge, creating a general feeling of vague threat and unrest in their society. Steve couldn't understand how it was that she didn't realize her own strengths and capabilities. At this time, students who came from him approached them, introducing even more mystery and misunderstanding into the atmosphere. Albert asked what the teacher's plans were, and what he was going to do in this situation. He began to explain that he was trying to avoid unnecessary problems, but there was a group of chickens that needed to be put in place. However, they should not care. Logan stated that they really didn't care and that everyone would be able to resolve this situation without undue complications. The teacher replied that then she would leave it on their shoulders, leaving the students to solve the situation on their own. Grace continued to insisting that they would undoubtedly pay for this, as if anticipating the coming consequences. Having avoided marriage, she clearly expressed her opposition, warning that in case of any problems they should not interfere in her affairs. The guy reassured his sister, saying that she had nothing to worry about, because no one was going to run away. The master noticed that returning was in her own interests, saying this as if revealing part of the secret that could influence her decision. Grace stated that she refused to return, as if to reinforce her decision to remain independent and free. At this time, people around were all discussing this situation, creating a storm of gossip and opinions in the air. The guy was clearly annoyed by this, because there was noisy conversations around him, causing his indignation. There was a heated conversation all around, but the conversations concerned only Steve, creating the feeling that the whole world depended on his deeds and actions. Memories of a tragic loss surfaced in his mind. His teacher, brother and sister had all died due to the Hahuan technique, leaving an irreparable void. He was in cahoots with his uncle, he knew the whole truth, and together they kept secrets related to the past of the teacher and family. You really found yourself in the middle of a cruel technique. The guy fixed his gaze on her, asking if she swears that she will not return. Concern and hope for her honest promise were visible in his eyes. He declared that she belonged entirely to Steve, body and soul, confirming his commitment and acceptance of her choice. After speaking, she clenched her sword even tighter, as if preparing for an inevitable test. The guy announced that the moment had come when it was time for her to return to him, as if emphasizing the inevitability of this decision. The girl replied that in this case, let them return on their own, expressing their independence and determination to maintain freedom of choice. Then he was ready for battle, impressive with his determination and willingness to defend his beliefs. At this time, people noticed something in the sky. An unknown object attracted their attention and created a mystery in the air. Grace noted that this was the result of what he taught her, expressing recognition of the ability to apply the acquired knowledge in a real situation. At this time, the sword was practically in front of the guy's eyes, creating tension and anticipating a possible collision. This applies to that technique, to what he taught her. Now she will return, but to him. The way this technique looked was truly mesmerizing, as if it embodied something mystical and attractive. What amazed everyone around her was that she was regenerating her arm. Her ability was extremely ruthless and baffling. The man warned that if she dares to spread rumors and slander his heart, he, too, will not stand aside and will take up the task of hanging noodles in people's ears. Now you are a man, ready to attack. Tension and readiness for decisive action were in the air. He noticed that this is where strength and spirit lie, and he remained silent. Inner strength does not require unnecessary words. The teacher, nevertheless, managed to catch the girl, demonstrating his dexterity and skill in the art of restraint. It became known that Steve had promised an upcoming punishment, and there was tension and anticipation of inevitability in the air. There are also children who allow themselves to be rude in conversations, so it would be better for them to refrain and remain silent for a while. He noted that this girl was really stubborn, adding to the impression with her persistence and independence. And now it was Steve's turn. Tension and anticipation of his next actions were in the air. All the students noticed how Emily very carefully held the girl, demonstrating not only strength, but also control over the situation. Logan asked if the teacher said that they were free, because yesterday he hurried somewhere, as if hinting at possible changes in the situation. Emily said that they would see each other later, because the teacher ordered them to go to the room, anticipating a possible return in the future. It seemed useless, because it was simply necessary to deal with it, paying attention to the unnecessary complexity of the situation. Then, right at the entrance, a powerful explosion was heard, revealing a new chapter of unexpected events. The teacher could not understand whether to consider her crazy, because who could order her to destroy the entrance, expressing her bewilderment and surprise. There was tension in his gaze as he asked if she realized how expensive it would be to rebuild it all. Emily gave him a questioning look, asking if he had told her about harnessing the power of the thunderstorm, even though she couldn't quite control it yet. But suddenly Emily's gaze suddenly went somewhere into the distance, hiding an unknown secret that she would slowly reveal in her inner world. She asked the teacher to shut up and turn around, her decisive tone emphasizing that at that moment she had seized the initiative. Steve is confused, unable to understand why the girl was so angry, and he tries helplessly to uncover the reasons for her agitation. Turning around, a strange, vague form appeared in front of him, a mysterious creature from another dimension, giving him strange feelings. Seeing what was happening, Emily expressed her delight at what she saw. Her eyes sparkled with joy. She discovered a piece of magic in the gray everyday life. She asked the teacher if he had talked about the need to destroy someone, and her question was so tense that a noticeable amount of anxiety remained in the air. Realizing that she needed to calm down and think about the situation, she remembered the words of her teacher, urging her to trust him, because he was never wrong. It should be possible this time too. The ordinary talisman of concentration of spirit seems to have amazing power, capable of uniting the spiritual energy of each person and calling into life a giant dragon, symbolizing the unification of the forces of great unity. The man emphasized that it is important for young people to maintain modesty, just like boys, emphasizing the need for respect and tolerance in society. His gaze reflected agreement with Master Gon's spoken words. In their wisdom there was an understanding that penetrated into the very depths of his consciousness. Suddenly it dawned on them. They realized that things were extremely bad with the dragon, and fear covered them like a shadow, overshadowing the initial feeling of carelessness. The teacher could not believe that modern youth are so mediocre, noting that their spiritual elements no longer have the same strength as they once did. The students felt joy that their words were not ignored, and they felt the importance of the teacher hearing their voice. A few seconds later, a powerful explosion erupted, nature itself embodying a dramatic turn of events in bright light and thunder. Steve, as if nothing had happened, calmly landed, as if in his world explosions were an ordinary occurrence that did not deserve special attention. Afterwards, he asked if they understood everything, wanting to make sure that everyone understood the events that had occurred. Emily was shocked that he was right inside the dragon's belly. Reality turned upside down, and she was forced to realize something absurd. Logan thought that the spirit concentration talisman is able to collect the energy of people, but the enemy has weak points. Finding a gap and placing a bomb there can easily finish off the dragon. All the students felt joy that everything had passed, as if a weight had been lifted from their shoulders, and they could enjoy a moment of peace. The healthy man thought that this child talked too much, as if words could be an unnecessary burden in a world full of power and silence. The guy announced that the main course had not yet been served, and they had not lost, hinting that something important lay ahead, and they had a chance to change the course of events. The master looked as if he was created solely to manage this entire situation. His mastery of the situation was inherent in his essence. At this time, Steve cheerfully imitated the master, putting a dose of mockery into every movement, creating a comic atmosphere in a serious environment. He then said that learning continues and nothing stops. All the students were really delighted with the teacher and said that he was the cutest. Amelia realized that she really didn't need to learn anything, because this Steve, and her sister, and her brothers, they were everything to her. The teacher could not understand what kind of performance the students gave him. At this time, the master prepared to fight Steve in order to show him who is stronger here. But he just laughed because he is familiar with this technique. He knows what he is going to do. Then some kind of dome appeared around Steve. Apparently this was the same technique. The teacher asked why the youth were so tense. By the way, he still didn't understand who he was, so he just called him 5 golden flowers. Then Steve noticed burning stones flying at him. He had to do something. The teacher asked the master not to hide and come out. He said that if he didn't come out, his stone football would hurt him. He presented himself as an extremely understanding person, as if emphasizing his willingness to empathize and understand others. It actually worked, and Steve was able to strike the master, finding a vulnerability in his defense. It also, moreover, amazed his subordinates, further emphasizing his skill and superiority in battle. After this, the dome immediately began to collapse, a response to the strength and skill displayed by Steve. Now the guy realized that he no longer had anything to be proud of, expressing his understanding of his defeat and failure. Realizing that the man was generous, he decided not to kill him, showing leniency and mercy. But he needs to search his soul to find out if he will last to the end. It all depends on his luck. The guy screamed with all his might to help the master, as if fear and anxiety had taken over him, and he was looking for protection. At this time, the teacher's gaze became cold-blooded and murderous, a harbinger of danger and inevitability. The people around could not understand why the sky suddenly darkened. A feeling of bewilderment and anxiety overwhelmed them. Emily reported that she could smell rot in the air, warning of something sinister and dark. Then Steve realized that he had gone outside on his own, remembering the moment of his decision. Now he didn't have to look everywhere for someone who practiced the killing technique. Relief let him go. A short old man with a face dotted with wrinkles, which reflected a rich history, descended to the people. His eyes emitted a bright radiance, like soft moonlight, and grace was noticeable in his every movement, as if he were the guardian of ancient secrets that carried the breath of nature. He called them his reckless children and asked who dared to look at the elder, demanding an answer for their insolence. The man then decided to use the spiritual chain, turning to higher powers for support and wisdom. In addition, the guy managed to say that the elder is the most powerful, emphasizing the outstanding strength and authority of the elder. He was sure that Steve's soul would disintegrate instantly, anticipating the inevitable impact of the spiritual chain. But the teacher laughed at that time, because he thought they were very funny, as if mocking their fears and insecurities. So, in addition, the teacher asked to look at these wretched chains. He could not understand who they decided to look down on, expressing contempt for their arrogance. The man said that since he longed for death so much, he would fulfill his wishes by accepting the challenge and preparing for the decisive moment. Then the same cauldron from then appeared in the challenge tower, recreating the memories of the previous challenge. The teacher admitted that this irritated him terribly. He could not understand why he was so obsessed with this game with chains, as if he was perplexed about the motivation of his opponent. A moment later, dead souls appeared, signaling the onset of a mysterious and enigmatic moment. The teacher said that they were unlucky to go after the elder and encounter him again, foreseeing the negative consequences of their action. As the elder tried to say something, a blow landed right on his nose, interrupting his attempt to speak. But Steve didn't want to stop there and struck again, expressing his determination and inflexibility. Then, with a blow to the jaw, Steve threw the man high into the air, demonstrating his strength and skill in combat. It is not clear for what reason, but the man thought it was magnificent, and called the guy amazing, recognizing his skill in martial arts. He said that his cultivation degree allowed him to resist the snake tripod, calling Steve a true talent, expressing recognition of his unique skills. It is unclear for what reason, the man suddenly disappeared, adding mystery to what was happening. The teacher realized that he was still hiding the teleportation device, revealing the secret of their meeting. When Steve turned around, he saw almost all the people present being pulled into this cauldron, testifying to the influence of his magic. The man said that they would be honored, and when he regained his strength, he would destroy Steve, challenging him and expressing his confidence in victory. Of course, the teacher did not take these words seriously, rejecting the threats and demonstrating his confidence in his strength. But he couldn't understand how a person like him could be destroyed by such sophisticated technology. Doubting the threat was real. It just so happened that he knew another excellent technique, highlighting his mastery in the art of wrestling. The man suddenly began to be pulled into something unknown. he became a victim of the mysterious forces of the teacher's art. A moment later he found himself in some place unknown to him, chained, faced with a mysterious movement. Of course, he was furious with the guy, expressing his indignation and dissatisfaction with what had happened. Steve asked if he had woken up yet, showing concern for his condition after the teleportation. Then, with a wave of his finger, he beckoned the man towards him, demonstrating his power and control. Steve asked if he was comfortable here and said that he would allow him to die before his suffering began, expressing his merciful willingness. He then put on an innocent expression, playing at masquerade and hiding his true intentions. The elder asked what he was going to do and asked if he knew who was behind him, as if probing his intentions and solving the mystery of his support. He began to say that even if the guy had heard of someone, he would not understand how influential the sect was before the eras and the current ruler, as if revealing to him the secrets and history of the power of the elders. Everyone has heard about Emperor Wen, who has a great reputation. Under his rule, art flourished, and an aura of nobility was felt everywhere, as if one were inhaling the air of sublimity. He began to mock him and ask again about this emperor. It turned out that the elder studied with this man, and accordingly Steve asked whether he knew that in those years a girl named Alice was killed with this technique. The man could not understand how Steve could know about this because in those years the man removed the possibility of disseminating this information. All because, as it turned out, it was Steve's sister. When the elder realized that Steve was also from the sect, he could not understand who was really standing in front of him. Steve asked, didn't he just talk about this? As it turned out that the emperor was him. Of course, the elder could not believe it. No one in the world would dare to call the emperor by name. He had not heard this name for a long time. He recalled how the emperor told him that the meridians and cultivations were destroyed, and asked whether he would let him live. That night he killed many, and killing again would only hurt his heart, and Alice wouldn't want that. The guy said that he could only promise his father that he would leave his dog's life, but only for a while. He asked him to pull himself together, and said that the teacher would send him so far away that he would never see him again. At this time, the guy's gaze was very angry and furious. The elder could not believe it because he was sure that they had died then. Steve said it was because of his teacher that he allowed him to live to see this day. The elder really still couldn't believe what was happening. Steve said that he would undergo a soul cleansing. He would let him feel all this pain. He decided to rid his eyes of this. It had been 500 years since his sister was killed, and today was the day her death was finally avenged, as eternal debt and family memories shifted the power of time. On the second day, the teacher simply wandered aimlessly, as if following an invisible path that only he knew, arousing curiosity and a secret feeling of admiration among the students. At some point, he suddenly felt as if the air was filled with something invisible, forcing him to slow down and listen carefully to the mysterious vibrations around him. They shouted to Steve that they had come to save him, and at that moment his heart sounded like a loud drum beat, suddenly filling the air with an incredible feeling of salvation. And suddenly there was a loud explosion, causing the world around to freeze in deafening silence, as if time had stopped, looking questioningly at Steve. Of course, the teacher flared up with anger, not understanding who dared to save with an explosion, and genuine bewilderment flashed in his eyes, as if he had witnessed a mysterious plot. As it turned out, it was the teacher's son who believed that Steve's destruction of the enemy was good, and a proud statement flashed in his eyes, like a prophetic dream coming true. Passionately heated, Steve said in rage that if the teacher's son does not stop blowing up everything around him, he himself will become a living explosion, leaving him bewildered and warning him of the consequences. But at the moment the guy said that he had brought two important things and offered to look at them. Steve, fueled by inner excitement, could not wait for the moment when a new weapon would appear before him, a divine gift that promised power and undeniable strength. The guy insisted that the teacher personally familiarize himself with the weapon, warning that it instantly absorbed energy, a greedy predator waiting for its share of power. Becoming confused, Steve could not understand why exactly he had made the decision to give this weapon to her, his inner compass guiding him to this inexplicable choice. Asking him not to forget that she was still his student and niece, Steve warned, recognizing the weapon as her destiny, as if the power of will and decision in this matter lay beyond human influence. In the absence of fresh news about his friend at home, he begged the guy to tell everything necessary, assuring that his brother would take responsibility, and carry out all the instructions. Tell him that 15 boxes are enough for him. Last time he received 10, but now the difference between 10 and 15 already seems huge and important. Of course, the teacher agreed to such conditions. Understanding flashed in his eyes that this choice could play a key role in the inevitable events unfolding in their lives. Then they went to collect his reward, full of determination and excitement, ready for the next stage of the adventure, which could change their destinies. When the teacher arrived, he was immediately received with a hug from Emily, who expressed her excitement and joy in words, remembering how her heart was worried. He showed her the new weapon, claiming that it was originally meant for her, part of her destiny, and now she must take it into her hands. He invited her to question the second brother, emphasizing that in his presence she would be able to receive additional answers and clarifications. Steve suggested that the girl take advantage of this opportunity, emphasizing that a conversation with her second brother could shed light on her questions and help her understand the current situation. She then immediately took the weapon into her hands, feeling that it had become part of her destiny, and determination flashed in her eyes, ready for new challenges. For unknown reasons, but for a moment, the cutting of the weapon glowed, a harbinger of something unusual or mysterious, awakening curiosity and excitement. It was clear from the expression on the girl's face that she was slightly confused, having encountered an unexpected moment that knocked her out of her usual rhythm. And then, in a sudden escalation, she almost shot her teacher, her expression fluctuating between surprise and determination, leaving everything in tense silence. Steve reminded her that shooting her teacher was unacceptable, as it would take away the blessing of a teacher remaining unperturbed in the face of an unexpected test. Emily was not offended by the teacher's reaction. There was amazing confidence in her calm voice. Her inner wisdom helped her understand the essence of what was happening. Steve couldn't understand why she was crying so much. His eyes expressed concern, because Emily's secrets and emotions remained unsolved. She began to say that since she became his student, she had always followed him. His influence had taken over her life, and now the internal conflict had touched her to the core. But he never explains anything, and yesterday, as usual, he disappeared, leaving her in bewilderment without saying a word. Steve realized that he was wrong and immediately looked down, realizing his mistake and feeling sorry for the girl. The teacher asked the remaining 5 students why they did not ask where he was, wanting to understand why his disappearance went unnoticed. The teacher admitted that he was wrong and promised to tell everything in advance next time, demonstrating his readiness for a more open and understanding interaction. In addition, he emphasized that he always keeps his promises, instilling confidence in his reliability and dedication to his word. The guy congratulated, because his student had finally received her divine weapon. This weapon has 2 features. The first is that the weapon can only shoot arrows with concentrated spiritual energy. The guy then elegantly jumped off those boxes, demonstrating ease and grace, his every move carefully choreographed. He politely asked the girl for the weapon, knowing that he had something special in front of him, and ready to respect the mystical power embodied in this weapon. In this position, he will shoot her gifts with concentrated spiritual energy, but their power is several times greater than ordinary projectiles. Simply put, this is the highest level of destruction, where every shot carries immeasurable power, ready to reforge the course of events in its favor. Of course, after these words, a powerful explosion was heard, embodying all the destructive power of the new, divine weapon. Christian couldn't understand why he was standing in front of Uncle Ben. Because he was the second brother, the feeling of misunderstanding and absurdity prevented clarity in his thoughts. The second brother asked the seventh if he wanted to fight, the challenge throwing an electric tension of anticipation into the air. This entire conversation took place in the toilet, creating an atmosphere of unpredictability and mystery, ordinary places becoming an arena for unusual events. For unknown reasons, someone apparently became interested in knowing the size of their brother's genitals, creating a moment of strange curiosity in this unexpected and unlikely place. Christian mockingly asked Emily if they were like this and then showed his finger, introducing a moment of strange humor and discomfort into the atmosphere of the toilet conversation. Of course, both guys became embarrassed and angry after this exit, creating sudden tension and resentment in the toilet. The power of divine weapons varies depending on the owner. It could even be used to attack Steve, but so far the girl had not thought about it, remaining unaware of the potential power hidden in her hands. Then he finally gave Emily her weapon, realizing that she was ready to take responsibility and control the power of this divine projectile. He said that he had nothing more to tell, but clarified that there was one more matter that he would like to discuss with her teachers, instilling mystery in the air. At this moment, Emily experienced inner joy, the excitement of releasing her divine weapon mixed with a feeling of relief and readiness for new challenges. But forgiveness, so to speak, did not come easily to her. An invisible barrier maintained internal misunderstanding and anxious tension. The teacher asked what about the second thing the guy was talking about, feeling that there was another important issue to be addressed in their conversation. And then he began to open some kind of case. The next mysterious element melted inside it, ready to reveal new secrets. There lay a magical stone called the Lake of Heavenly Ice, sparkling in its incredible beauty, a piece of magic hidden inside a hidden case. It was sent by people from the Blue Feather Palace. When it was repaired, they discovered that it was created by forces from outside, a mysterious gift that came to life in the hands of a student. The teacher understood everything and said that they needed to go to the heavenly domain as soon as possible, anticipating new adventures and secrets unfolding before their eyes. His gaze was filled with determination and purposefulness. In every movement and decision of the student there was a readiness to meet the unknown and test his strength. Now the guy has finished everything and must return to continue restoring the transformation of the soul. His mission was connected with important and mysterious processes of change. Steve asked if he had really made this magic broom, his voice filled with a mixture of surprise and bewilderment at the extraordinary work. In the end, Steve only had time to tell the guy to let him know if something happened, anticipating uncertain events in their future. He, in turn, called him a talker and did not deny anything, taking into account the characterization with humor and without hostility. Emily arrived at the training ground and looked for the teacher, her eyes scanning the surroundings in search of a familiar silhouette. He told Emily that she could ask the teacher to move the training to a larger location, supporting the idea of improving the training conditions. Steve said that they were about to leave on a plane. His voice conveyed confidence and readiness for the new stage of the adventure. He said that others did not need notice, since they had long been accustomed to such changes, and his voice carried confidence in the experience and independence of other participants. But regarding the plane, he asked to look up, hinting at something exciting that awaited them in the airspace. To Emily's surprise, she saw in front of her some very huge chickens, mysterious creatures in the air that brought unpredictability into the plans. Of course, she was shocked. The sight of the unusual sight paralyzed her thoughts for a moment. As it turns out, the chicken the teacher will be riding on was named Barbie, and the other was King Kong, giving these names an unexpected and humorous context. The girl could not believe that these names were really serious. In addition, there seemed to be no system to protect herself, not even a seatbelt, creating a feeling of extraordinary defenselessness. Now they have already taken off into the air. The moment of takeoff brought exciting uncertainty and a feeling of lightness mixed with anxiety. Emily politely asked the hen if this male was her boyfriend, trying to unravel the mysteries of the animal world in this incredible flight. And she replied that this was her respected husband, who introduced a playful note into the general atmosphere of this unusual flight. Of course, Emily was slightly embarrassed by this answer, faced with an unexpected and unusual situation. Steve said that this time they were flying to a heavenly domain, and there was some excitement in his voice before the upcoming adventure. The hen told the teacher to give her the flower he had taken from the master, expressing his demands with a touch of refined authoritarianism. Steve was a little nervous after this. The unexpected situation caused him some anxiety and uncertainty. Barbie asked if he took the flower, expressing interest in the details and concern that something important was missing. The teacher immediately began to very clumsily deny everything, trying to avoid responsibility for taking the flower, and his refusal seemed extraordinarily ridiculous. Barbie informed King Kong that they were returning because the teacher did not bring a flower, conveying information about the failed mission and causing disappointment. And they really began to return. The heavenly flight was interrupted, and the return to Earth meant the end of this unusual episode. At this time, Grace woke up. The awakening occurred at a key moment, introducing an unexpected twist into what was happening. Emily told Grace not to worry and not okay, she was just seasick. The people outside were beaten by the old fool and the elders, and she offered to stay to heal her wounds. The girls simply thanked them, acknowledging the help and expressing gratitude for the offer of help. The look of Emily and Steve was understanding. Their eyes reflected mutual understanding and support in a difficult moment. She said that she would leave as soon as she recovered from her injury and would never cause them any trouble again, expressing her determination to change the situation and end her journey with gratitude. Or she started saying that even if she recovers from her injuries, her cultivation is destroyed, she lost her arm, it is very dangerous to go out. The teacher nevertheless gave the go-ahead for the girl to stay, showing compassion and approval of this decision in a difficult situation. After this, he took out some kind of ring and showed it, introducing a new element into the conversation that could change the course of events. He said that if Grace took part in this apprenticeship, she would become his 7th student, offering her new perspectives and opportunities. After this, his academy will have her back, providing protection and support in the next stage of her education. Grace was already in a new look, symbolizing the beginning of her new stage of learning and transformation under the guidance of this teacher. So, she looked much better and fresher. Renewed energy and self-expression gave her a new appearance. The teacher said that there was something else important for her, and suggested that she go, preparing her for the next important stage. Emily could not understand what could be so important between two people that they needed privacy, leaving her at a loss as to the essence of this conversation. Emily could not stand the screams from Grace and decided to ask if everything was okay, showing concern and desire to understand the situation. When she saw what she saw, she was in shock, faced with an unexpected and stunning discovery. As it turned out, she now has a new hand. Something amazing and innovative has happened in her life. Emily happily hugged the girl and exclaimed that her hand was simply amazing, causing her admiration and joy, revealing the uniqueness of the moment. The teacher sternly instructed them to stop what they were doing, insisting that they set out immediately, emphasizing the urgency and importance of following directions. Emily easily convinced Steve of the importance of taking the girl with him, emphasizing that her presence would add charm to the adventure and help create a unique atmosphere on the trip. Everyone was worried about only one thing: how Logan had suddenly appeared among them, causing them to speculate about the mysterious origin and impact of his presence on the upcoming adventure. He warned the teacher that she was acting strangely, raising questions and causing concern, creating an atmosphere of mystery and unpredictability in the school. Steve asked Barbie to turn around slowly, drawing attention to her movements, wanting to unravel the secrets hidden behind the turn in her gaze. Steve approached the youngest student, encouraging her to open up and asking her to speak up if she felt uncomfortable, creating trust in the group. She also began to express her observations, noting that Katie's eyes seemed extremely sad, revealing the character's inner world and emotional experiences. He could not understand how he managed to wake up so early, feeling a slight confusion in time and trying to unravel the mystery of his early awakening. He declared that she should go to the extreme heavenly realm with her teacher, opening before her the path to unknown adventures and spiritual development. There was, frankly, something unhealthy in her gaze, creating an image of mystery and anxiety. Hidden difficulties and secrets were reflected in her eyes. Logan assured that as long as the girl was with the teacher, they had nothing to worry about, emphasizing the teacher's protective aura and creating a sense of safety around the group. Albert asked for a way to open the bottle, creating a moment of surprise in which everyone began to look for a creative solution to solve this problem. Then, without uttering a word, he decisively began to walk away, leaving the mystery of his next step in the air and arousing the interest of those around him. In the rising evening light, Logan, anticipating a temporary revival, warned of an imminent calm. The new younger sisters who appeared aroused interest, and the teacher, gathering them under his wing, filled the space with life and mysteries. At this time, the heroes were already in the polar sky, the expanse of a snowy field in the far east, where the magic of the moment merged with the cold beauty of the surrounding landscape. The silver ice flower given by his sister seemed to still be there at that moment in the polar sky, radiating magic and tenderness in the fragile winter atmosphere. The teacher forced the chickens to land at the foot of the mountains, imposing his power over the creatures of the air and creating a majestic picture of the conquest of the recalcitrant skies. At this time, 3 mysterious travelers carefully searched the area, their silhouettes melted into the shadows, adding mystery to this amazing corner of nature. Their captain, named Deborah, said that he swore to the palace master to return the silver ice flower as soon as possible, creating an intriguing atmosphere for the upcoming task. They were all furious, because this barren snow-capped mountain, inhabited by ghosts in recent days, shrouded them in anger and mystery, creating an atmosphere of unknown dangers. One of the subordinates warned the captain to look ahead, highlighting the unexpected turn of events and forcing everyone to focus on the uncharted horizon. Then the guide pointed his finger, showing the direction where to look, unraveling the mystery of the upcoming test and emphasizing the importance of general attention to the chosen path. Of course, Deborah could not comprehend the meaning of his words, creating a moment of misunderstanding and adding mystery to the setting of an unpredictable adventure. He singled out a snowy girl in the distance. Her contours merged with the surrounding whiteness, arousing interest and questions about who she was and how she ended up here. Everything turned out to be not as it seemed. It was not a snow girl, but just Emily, who was in style, blending with the surrounding landscape and adding mystery to their adventure. He said that she was not cowardly, but rather brazen, revealing the two-sidedness of Emily's character, which combined courage and self-confidence. She explained that she was too young to die, revealing her philosophy and attitude towards life, adding a touch of courage and fearlessness to the discussion. Finally, she just asked him to keep his word, completing his rationale with the hope of honesty and responsibility, creating incredible tension in the air. At this time, Steve stopped the dagger right in front of him, the moment frozen in tense anticipation, raising questions about what awaits them ahead. The teacher noted that Emily responded well, emphasizing her ability to cope with unexpected situations and gain approval from the teacher. The captain prepared to rescue the man and asked her subordinates to stop the snow girl, creating a tense moment of separation of forces and goals in their unusual adventure. Within seconds, Emily realized that they thought she was a weak girl, suddenly entering a situation where her strength and resolve were questioned. However, in the captain's understanding, she managed to save Steve, pulling him out of a precarious situation and emphasizing her devotion and leadership qualities. She noticed that this man lacked spiritual strength, and it was not surprising that the snow girl appeared in the city, emphasizing the connection of events and reflecting the vulnerability of the heroes. She assured him not to be afraid, because their palace of justice would provide protection, instilling confidence that justice would prevail in their adventure. The teacher was delighted that this beautiful woman expressed a desire to protect him, bringing an element of protection and support to their adventure together. During this time, the entire group truly perceived Emily as a snow girl, creating a comical and unexpected dynamic in their interactions. The captain warned the snow girl not to dare harm anyone in the presence of their judge, establishing rules of conduct and emphasizing her role in maintaining order. The red-haired girl asked how they could eat people with such a cute face, adding a humorous edge to their conversation and creating an unexpected twist in the discussion. Emily felt that the teacher should dream again, reviving memories and inspiring new experiences, bringing an element of mysticism and inner knowledge to their adventure. The captain asked her subordinates to protect the teacher while she dealt with the situation herself, creating an image of unity and mutual support in the group. And only after these words did Steve regain consciousness, returning to reality after a moment of bewilderment. The captain's words were an awakening for him. He immediately began to explain that Emily was not a snow girl, he did not need the captain's help, and they were just playing, clarifying the situation and bringing clarity to the confusion. Deborah still couldn't understand what they were doing in the snowy mountains, expressing her bewilderment and adding an element of mystery to their mystical adventure. Steve explained that they were searching for a secret kingdom, revealing the purpose of their journey and emphasizing the mystery and importance of their mission. After the captain tried to apologize to Emily, she refused to accept her apology, creating a tense moment in the relationship and highlighting the difficulty of mutual understanding. Deborah shared that as a test crew captain she needed to take responsibility for her mistakes, calling for honesty and self-reflection in leadership. Emily couldn't understand why this girl was so stubborn because she kept saying that everything was fine, creating confusion in communication and causing misunderstandings. Deborah told Emily to let her handle it, expressing her willingness to overcome difficulties and encouraging cooperation in solving problems that arose. Emily reiterated that this should not be done, emphasizing her persistence and warning against actions that could lead to negative consequences. Deborah once again repeated her apology, expressing sincerity and desire to correct the situation, creating an atmosphere of mutual understanding and forgiveness. And Emily once again stated that this was not necessary, emphasizing her decision and refusal of the offered apology, supporting her point of view. There was a feeling that this confrontation would be eternal. The two sides collided in a struggle that did not foretell a quick end. But Emily no longer continued to deny, creating some shift in the dynamic that could indicate a possible reconciliation or understanding in the future. The girl said that as a sign of her gratitude, they would accompany them, otherwise they would not be able to get out of here alive, adding a mystical flavor and new aspects to their journey. The teacher said that he then counted on them for the rest of the trip, emphasizing the importance of their presence and responsibility for the success of their shared journey. The girl expressed her joy in meeting the teacher, adding a note of friendliness and the possibility of improving relations in the group. The group, now numbering 6, then set out on a journey, bringing their diverse community to life and highlighting the beginning of an exciting journey. The teacher announced that they had already arrived, revealing the mystery and speed of their journey, causing interest and surprise in the group. Emily asked if the story the teacher told was a fiction, and if the child he was looking for was a fictional person who added mystery to the plot. Subordinates asked the captain why they felt like something was wrong, causing dissatisfaction and raising questions about the mysterious aspects of their voyage. I couldn't understand how it was possible to find the secret kingdom so easily. It only took 15 minutes, causing surprise and questions about the real nature of this place. And then the captain herself realized that something was wrong, internal doubts popping up and emphasizing the mystery of what was happening. She decided that if so, she would not give it to them, expressing determination and willingness to maintain control of the situation, creating tension in the group. The teacher said that since they did not believe, they should just go up and see for themselves, inviting them to check with their own eyes and resolving their doubts. The girl told him to let her open the way, offering her abilities and instilling the idea that she could solve the problem. And so, just like that, the girl entered the secret kingdom, confirming her words and opening the door to a mystical world that had previously remained inaccessible to the group. She was ready to face the obstacles within, expressing determination and fortitude that gave her confidence in the difficult journey. Her movements were very flexible and professional, inspiring respect for her skills and giving the impression that she knew what she was doing in this mysterious world. She couldn't understand how they dared to stand in her way, expressing surprise and bewilderment at the resistance she encountered. After a few minutes, she said it was okay to come in, allowing the group to join her in the secret realm and continue exploring. But the teacher told everyone to wait, adding an element of intrigue and raising questions about what else might be in this mysterious place. Now that the girl has lost her cultivation, she has unconscious energy in her hands, and it is safe to be in this circle, which was in accordance with the teacher's plan just outlined. As long as they remain within the circle, no one can harm them, providing temporary shelter and emphasizing its protective properties. Then the teacher simply left the girls on their own, giving them freedom and creating a moment of mysterious anticipation. Deborah warned them to be careful, instilling vigilance and emphasizing the need for careful behavior in a new environment. In her opinion, this place is a little strange, causing some anxiety and emphasizing the unpredictability of the environment. And she was completely right. In front of them they saw incomprehensible symbols and hieroglyphs, adding mystery and raising questions about the meaning of these signs. In this kingdom, all the people are from the Arctic Palace, delving into the mysterious nature of this new world and creating interesting perspectives for the heroes. The teacher asked the girl to watch her tongue, because he is not a prisoner in their court, reminding her of respect for the rules of this mysterious kingdom and emphasizing its features. The girl's intuition tells her that this is definitely connected to him, creating foreboding and revealing new secrets in their adventure. He said that they should not even think about breaking ranks, immediately take the spatial teleportation scroll and leave, expressing severity and seriousness in their instructions. After all, every family has such a scroll, implying that it is a common practice and creating interest in the unique features of this Arctic kingdom. Emily couldn't understand what the guy was talking about, and how it was to break into a private house. Isn't this his academy? His old friend also lives there. Now an underground palace appeared before them, providing a new and surprising place to explore and adding to the mystery of the story. The captain asked what their final destination was beyond that door, raising an important question about the purpose of their journey and directing attention to future events. The teacher said that she was absolutely right, confirming the captain's wisdom and emphasizing his agreement with her view of the situation. He asked to imagine his family's very handsome gatekeepers engraved on the door, adding detail to the description and creating an interesting visual image. He said he would wake them up and draw a dragon, adding lightness and humor to the atmosphere and creating anticipation for something amazing. But they were no longer in the secret realm, ending the episode and perhaps setting the stage for more adventures beyond. She asked if the guardian beast left the secret kingdom, would it be able to survive? Expressing concern for the safety of this creature and causing discussion of its future fate. After they finished their business, check it out, he would like to see which eyeless one dared to break into his houses and kill his beast guardian, expressing obvious displeasure and willingness to protect his creatures. During this time, Deborah broke down the door, creating tension and adding an element of drama to the plot. The teacher said that you just need to push her away, and that's all, conveying practical advice and adding an element of struggle for passage inside. Inside, they saw a truly silver ice flower, emphasizing the importance and significance of this object in their adventure. Yes, they saw what the teacher was doing and became furious, expressing disappointment or dissatisfaction with the truth revealed to them. In the literal sense of the word, he licked this piece of paper, causing disgust and surprise in those who saw it. He said that after so many years it turns out that this flower smells like a peach, adding an unexpected discovery and emphasizing the variability of the perception of objects. He asked if they were looking for him too, raising questions about how involved the heroes were in the mysterious incident. Deborah said that this was what was left of the Arctic Palace, and asked for it, conveying the importance and significance of this item in their adventure. Steve asked if they were sent to find the silver ice flower, raising the question of the purpose for which they came to this place. He said that he did not need to fuss with the search, they themselves found the flower for him, expressing confidence and satisfaction with the results of their efforts. Since the girl now has no arguments, she began to fight, demonstrating determination and readiness to defend her point of view. The teacher said that the little girl is playing, betting on his things, so that he loses anyway, expressing irony and bewilderment at the situation. He said that if she could catch him off guard, then the flower was hers, adding an element of intrigue and competition to the dialogue. The first attempt was unsuccessful, creating tension and opportunity for later plot twists. The second was similar to the first, enhancing the sense of challenge and emphasizing the difficulty of the situation for the girl. The girl has one last chance, adding intrigue and hope that events will develop in their favor. And the third time, he completely stopped her sword with 2 fingers, demonstrating his skill and superiority in this duel. Of course, the girl could not believe what was happening, expressing surprise and possibly a feeling of relief or disappointment. They immediately ran up to the master and started asking if she was okay, showing care and concern for the girl's well-being after the unusual event. The teacher said that he wanted to take the student with him and visit the organization with him, but this was of no use, emphasizing the uselessness and meaninglessness of the actions taken. The girl, to be honest, was surprised by the guy's actions, expressing her bewilderment and perhaps disappointment in his behavior. She told them not to stay here for long, but to find another silver ice flower and quickly return to the palace, expressing concern and desire to keep the group safe. Amelia said that the teacher told her that the ice silver flower was peach-flavored. She asked where she could try it, expressing interest and desire to know more about the mysterious flower. The teacher said that if she wanted to try, she should wait until he returned, creating anticipation and emphasizing the need for patience. Steve told her to go and get her sisters, handing over responsibility for the girls and showing concern for their safety. She returned to the girl and reported that everything was fine, bringing calm and relief after solving possible problems, restoring harmony and peace in her soul. And Kite at this time became very ill, causing anxiety and adding an element of tension to the general atmosphere. Dark shadows began to envelop her condition. She asked why he didn't want to warn his sister Mentor, couldn't she be here, expressing concern and requesting justification for his decision, looking for logic in the choice and expressing her concern for her well-being. The teacher said that they would then fly to a place where there were many young girls, raising the question of their next destination and preparing them for new adventures, hinting at future interesting events, and creating a sense of anticipation in them. They did not fly to the Northern Ice Palace, creating intrigue and mystery around the change in plans and direction of their journey, revealing new facets and secrets of their adventure path. The teacher said that he wanted to show them the beautiful scenery of the snow field, revealing his intentions and desire to share the beauty of the surrounding nature, inviting them to enjoy the majestic view and strengthening the connection with nature. Emily was surprised that there weren't many girls here like the teacher had said, expressing her bewilderment and possible disappointment as she explored the discrepancy between expectations and reality around her. Steve knocked on the door and said it was him, returning and drawing attention to his presence, adding excitement and intrigue to the situation. Then a girl immediately came out to him, sparking interest and questions about who she was and how she was connected to what was happening, adding mystery and surprise to the current scenario. As it turned out, she was not alone, but also with equally charming girls, creating a mystery around their appearance and role in history. It turned out that these were the teacher's next sisters, revealing new characters and deepening the connections between the characters. The girl said, "Let the guy put her on stage with the black dragon, otherwise she will not lag behind," expressing her persistence and desire to take part in something interesting. And at this time, somewhere it is not clear where, but Emily was lying in the red color of the water, creating a mystery and raising questions about her current position and surroundings. The girl still couldn't get off the teacher, creating a comical scene and causing a smile among those around her. Another girl approached Grace and Emily, expanding their circle of acquaintances and introducing a new element into the narrative. One of the sisters asked her brother to play in the palace, introducing a new twist and possible plot developments into the story. Then they all went inside together, creating a sense of community and filling the stage with new characters. After this, Grace felt her body tremble, adding an element of intrigue and preparing her for new events. As it turned out, they went to some kind of spa, deepening the description of the environment and providing a new background for further events. After that, they completely forgot about all the problems, creating an atmosphere of peace and relaxation in the story. The girl said that after the bath, the sister would take them out to eat, adding detail to the characters' plans and filling the scene with life. Of course, after a few minutes they were all sitting at the table, creating an atmosphere of lunch and friendly conversation. They could eat whatever they wanted, but they did it slowly, carefully so as not to choke, savoring each bite as a special moment of abundance. Under the sheltering skies of dreams, Emily and Grace went to sleep, immersed in the sweet embrace of dreams after a busy day of events. The teacher's words conveyed a desire to ask for help, but the boundaries of his feelings were insurmountable, despite the expansion of his consciousness, which did not sense the girl's presence. The girl revealed that the master had been in solitude for several years, immersed in a world of self-knowledge and wisdom, inaccessible to prying eyes. It becomes unclear to Steve how this happens when faced with a puzzle where each piece of knowledge is an elusive puzzle. By handing over her position as palace master to her apprentice, she opened a new chapter, moving into the role of observer, where the successor's experience took off like a new round. Having poisoned the child, someone took advantage of this moment, and in order to save the child, she sacrificed her connection with reality, leaving the human world, becoming part of dark secrets and mystical circumstances. Doubts gripped her, and not wanting to take on official duties, she nevertheless agreed to take control of the palace master's train, finding a compromise in a world of responsibility and reluctance. For several years they had unresolved problems, but the master refused to see them, plunging into the darkness of ignorance. The teacher could try to connect what she said with some news he received, creating a bridge between her words and events in his world. Eager to truly help, Steve was eager to be a support for them, feeling an inner strength that could soften the burden of their troubles. After the information that the girl heard, she fell into shock, suddenly realizing that her world had been disturbed, and what remained of what was to come became a mystery. Steve noted that everything develops one by one, and it is difficult to be sure that someone will not want to give attention to the 21st degree, as if anticipating that attention may be turned in an unexpected direction. While hiding from her concerns about the Arctic Palace, she now admitted that the matter was becoming serious, realizing that events were taking an unexpected turn. If he decides to go, perhaps the master wants to meet, let him take the order of ice cold, and the guards will not dare to become an obstacle in his way. The teacher asked if it belonged to their palace lord, and why she was giving it to him, unraveling the mystery behind this unexpected choice. At this time, Emily entered some room, opening the door to a new chapter of events, where there was a mystery that needed to be solved. In front of her she discovered a coffin. Its shape seemed ominous and mysterious, personifying mysteries hidden in the past. And lo and behold, in that coffin lay the same Emily, the mysterious heroine who crossed the boundaries of reality and dreams. They were like two peas in a pod, inseparable and at the same time reflecting their uniqueness, twins created by the same world. A split second later, Emily, resting in the coffin, suddenly opened her eyes, bringing into the world a mysterious awakening from the darkness of ignorance. Some tentacles began to crawl out of the coffin, ancient shadows, awakening and striving for the light, causing the gaze to freeze in amazement. Emily could not understand what was happening here, facing a riddle shrouded in a veil of mystery that she had to reveal. Then these tentacles began to represent her in front of Emily lying in the coffin, performing an ancient ritual, intertwining destinies at the mercy of unknown forces. Fortunately for the girls, all this turned out to be just a dream, a mystical idea disappearing in the shadow of reality. The teacher said that he had just returned and heard her screams in her sleep. Asking what she was dreaming about, he penetrated into the mysterious recesses of her dreams. She began to say that in her dream a girl similar to her lay in an icy, bloody coffin, like a harbinger of mystical secrets hidden in the subconscious. The teacher told her not to be afraid, explaining that if she dreams of something negative, then something favorable will happen in reality, encouraging her with bright prospects. Emily agreed with Steve that there could not be another one of her in this world, recognizing the uniqueness of her personality and understanding that everyone has their own uniqueness. Today is the full moon, and he decided to talk about the quiet moon technique, putting into these words a share of the magic that comes with the light of the moon. Grace reported that the sixth sister had an unstable emotional state, and someone should stay with her. She unraveled the subtle threads of the inner world of her family members. The teacher nevertheless decided to spend the night with the student, creating a moment of mutual understanding and support in the darkness, where their connection became closer. Emily invited them to play a real test, a challenge that they had to accept in order to reveal the secrets of their own destinies. Asking her to do without the tests, he pointed out the late hour and her unbearable insomnia, calling for peace and tranquility after midnight. Emily decided to ask the question first, taking the lead and opening the way to unraveling the mysteries that lay hidden in their shared past. The teacher tried to predict her question, reading the unspoken thoughts in her eyes, preparing for an answer that could change the course of their destinies. Emily was amazed, because she had not even had a chance to ask the question yet, marveling at how the teacher was able to anticipate her unspoken thoughts. She felt puzzled as to who gave her permission to play pranks, and why anyone would even decide to speak up, exploring the hidden motives behind these unexpected actions. The teacher's next question was, and he asked if she had come here because of the transmigration of souls, revealing the possibility of supernatural forces in their meeting. Emily decided to pop the question, asking the teacher if he had lied about being an emperor, testing the boundaries of fantasy and reality in their conversation. She dared to ask what world Emperor Wen was from, and he probably had many concubines, revealing the secrets of the past in which they were now interacting. Seeking the truth, Steve confirmed that Emperor Wen had many concubines, but truly loved only one, a complex symphony of feelings manifested in their world. After these words, Emily expressed her desire to sleep and thanked him for staying with her, feeling peace in the presence of the teacher. Since the girl is not an entity in the worlds of the soul, and there are no traces of her spirit in her body, why does she appear before him in a dream, leaving a riddle in the darkness of ignorance? The teacher decided that he needed to visit her tomb, trying to unravel the mystery of her presence in his dreams and penetrate the secrets of her disappearance. Steve began to enter another world, crossing the edges of reality and opening the way to mysterious aspects of his consciousness. And in a split second he was already where he should have arrived, instantly overcoming spatial barriers and being transported to another world. Noticing that nothing had changed, he realized that this world remained unchanged, remaining in harmony with his inner realities. Most likely, he has already mixed everything up, and Emily has nothing to do with him, realizing that her own mistakes led to misunderstandings. Before this happened, he decided to look into the Northern Ice Palace, meeting with the princess, entering a new episode of his journey. Deborah could not understand what Steve had forgotten here. She peered into the secrets of his appearance in the Northern Ice Palace. By immediately asking if she had managed to find the silver ice flower, he raised the question of her success in the search, exploring the key moment of their meeting. The girl standing next to him felt slightly confused by this meeting, encountering an unexpected turn that disrupted the routine of her day. The girl suggested that since the captain already knew him, why not take him to an audience with the owner of the palace, creating the opportunity for an unexpected turn of events. The girl said that the owner of the palace was currently secluded, and if he wanted to meet with him, let him come in 7 days, setting a time frame for the upcoming meeting. The master was surprised by this coincidence, feeling that mysterious forces were interacting, directing his steps in unexpected ways. The captain told the gentleman that she had collected 5 silver ice flowers. He replied that with their help she could avenge her mother, opening up a new path of retribution for her. The girl noted that this day had finally come, feeling the approach of the moment of long-awaited change and decisive action. The man announced that the dagger would be ready in 7 days and invited her to come pick it up, setting a date for the weapon's expected completion. As it turned out, it was her father, and she wanted to report something to him. A few days ago, while searching for silver ice flowers, they encountered a couple of strange people. The man asked if she had conveyed to everyone that he would be in seclusion for 7 days and would not be able to meet with anyone, emphasizing the importance of this information and warning of restrictions. The captain had a bad feeling. A shadow of uncertainty overtook his soul, a harbinger of unexpected trials. The gentleman was informed that the guards had just reported that the 3 had left the palace. The sudden disappearance caused dissatisfaction and concern. He sent his subordinates after them, sending them on a chase to unravel the mystery of their sudden departure from the palace. The man thought it was very good, having caught the moment when events began to develop in the right direction. Emily greeted the teacher with excitement in her eyes, raising questions that troubled her mind, and the teacher, in turn, listened to her carefully, ready to reveal the secrets of the history that connected their lives. Steve urged them to hold on tight, anticipating the inevitable trials that might lurk, and trying to give them a sense of confidence in the power of unity. Yesterday, while immersed in meditation, he discovered something funny in the Northern Ice Palace, revealing secrets hidden in the silence of his inner world. It is unclear for what reasons, but a moment later at night there was a huge explosion. Unknown forces burst into their world, disrupting peace and security. When Emily woke up, she immediately began to look around for everyone, trying to find out what had happened and assess the general situation around her. Grace was surprised that Emily was okay, since even these flying chickens felt sick, expressing amazement that the girl remained unharmed during the strange event. Emily began to call the teacher, announcing his name with an alarming appeal, looking for support and clarification in an incomprehensible situation. And Steve at this time admired the snow and said that it was very pleasant, enjoying the moment of the beauty of nature even in a situation of unexpected events. As it turned out, this explosion was not accidental, and 3 mysterious figures appeared in front of the main characters, suddenly bursting into their world with the goal of something unusual. One of them turned to a certain Edward, asking if he was offended by his joke, hinting that what had happened could be part of some mysterious game. The teacher did not expect that it would turn out to be a bunch of idiots, expressing their dissatisfaction or disappointment due to the unexpected turn of events. One of them asked if any of them knew a verse, offering an unusual way to determine their identities or intentions. He explained that the 3 of them represent flower warriors, symbolizing different worlds, introducing the heroes into the mysterious reality of their own adventures. The teacher decided that they should be destroyed immediately, assessing the threat they posed to the safety of his students and the surrounding world. The girl from this group considered herself the most beautiful, carried confidence in her unsurpassed appearance, putting her individuality at the center of attention. When he imagined that same Edward, he asked him to hurry up, feeling a growing impatience or urgency in the events developing around him. But the guy presented himself very impressively, adding sophistication and charisma to his personality, standing out among others. The teacher and students immediately almost vomited from this performance, causing them physical displeasure and rejection of the guy's proud parade. The guy was offended that they insulted his beauty, perceiving his appearance as something valuable and vulnerable that requires protection. The teacher said he felt so disgusted that he became a little nervous and asked if the girls were okay, showing concern for their well-being in the context of the unpleasant episode. Emily noted that they were too strong and suggested that they not participate in the fight, as her presence, in her opinion, would only hinder them, showing her modesty and respect for their strength. In addition, Grace was also in no condition to fight right now, clarifying that even additional help from her would be impossible in this situation. But Steve said that they do not need to recover quickly, because their real treasure is not the teacher, emphasizing that true value lies elsewhere. He said that once their energy begins to run out, have them finish the fight as quickly as possible, reminding them of the importance of using their powers effectively in a duel. They have until midnight, setting a deadline for the battle to end and giving it an element of tension and time pressure. The teacher then proceeded to beat the first one, beginning to carry out his decision and demonstrating his determination to fight for his students. Steve pointedly asked if he could do him a favor, expressing a mocking confidence in his strength and readiness to cope with any challenge. Of course, then the guy got hit right in the face, a clear indication that Steve's request did not leave his opponent indifferent, and was met with an appropriate response. Steve said that his students would train on it, offering their charges as worthy opponents, emphasizing their strength and skills in martial arts. Edward asked Dream Girl to stop the teacher, initiating an intervention in the battle and seeking to stop the violence that was unfolding before their eyes. She couldn't believe it, because in the Void stage, people couldn't create magic circles, and she definitely wouldn't be able to stop him, revealing the limitations of her abilities in this context. Steve admitted that it had been so long since he played with the children of the sacred period. His hands were itching, expressing his joy and impatience to once again experience the joy of communicating with children during the special period. Edward was sure that the guy was equal to him in strength, preparing for the fight and waiting for a worthy opponent in Steve. Then he was ready to give him his attack, being in a state of readiness to retaliate in this intense duel. The teacher was not against shooting, accepting the challenge to a shootout and preparing for a fierce confrontation. Edward couldn't understand where Steve got this magical weapon from, feeling surprised and bewildered by the sudden appearance of the mystical weapon. The teacher said that this blow was able to break through his barrier, and his magic weapon was not bad, discussing the characteristics of the weapon and its effectiveness in battle. He had very immediate reactions, highlighting his outstanding skills of perception and ability to react quickly to events in a combat situation. You could only wonder what kind of person possesses such powerful mechanical weapons as you peer into the mysterious personality behind this impressive arsenal. However, this was Edward's limit, expressing the limitations of his power and capabilities in this context. Edward was upset that the task was completed, because the teacher interested him, expressing regret for the end of the fight, which could have been an interesting challenge. Well, to the guy's surprise, Steve was still able to survive, emphasizing the unexpectedness of the outcome of the fight and Steve's overcoming of difficulties. The teacher stepped straight out of the smoke, dramatically appearing before his students after a violent encounter and preparing for the next stage. Steve asked Edward, not knowing that in battle it was important to make sure the enemy was dead, offering his advice on tactics in combat. He was lucky that the teacher was such an understanding person. If it had been anyone else, he would have been at a disadvantage in expressing gratitude for the teacher's tolerance and understanding. These three do not consider themselves bad people. On the contrary, having such power, the teacher could not understand why they serve others, expressing bewilderment at their motives and goals. But Steve was ready to end this pointless battle, showing a desire to end the clash and move towards resolving the conflict. They have only recently arrived here, but have already managed to cross someone's path, creating intrigue around their recent appearance and influence on events. Edward was not prepared to defend himself against the teacher's attacks, leaving him unprepared to defend against the student's attack. Of course, Edward was unable to properly defend himself and simply let the teacher win, emphasizing his inability to cope with the attack and survive in battle. Edward liked that Steve was strong, respecting his strength and capabilities in combat. He was only interested in where the teacher got the magic weapon, causing curiosity and a desire to reveal the secret of its power. Edward then fired missiles from his limbs, creating an impressive effect and demonstrating his unique abilities. Unfortunately for the teacher, Edward was able to control the projectiles fired from his limbs, highlighting his skill and ability to effectively control his military capabilities. The girl believed that Edward's technique was boring and too brutal. She could not show what she was capable of, expressing her desire to show herself in a more creative and sophisticated style of fighting. Well, fortunately, the teacher was still able to break away from the missiles and approach Edward directly from behind, demonstrating his agility and ability to withstand attacks. Finally, Steve said that this was definitely the end, anticipating the end of the battle and making it clear that the outcome of events was becoming inevitable. Naturally, Steve proved to be stronger than his opponent, prevailing over him with his cunning and outstanding skills, demonstrating superiority in every move. Having entrusted his wisdom, he warned against carelessness and gives one more piece of advice. Having defeated enemies, you should finish them off, revealing the technique of the soul, which will transform the fight into art. Apparently, the teacher began to feel unsure, because he suddenly stopped, slowed down, colliding with an invisible barrier, and this change in his energy overshadowed his previous confidence. Suddenly it turned out that the girl behind was working miracles. She was skillfully creating a magic circle into which she wove mysterious spells, filling the air with mysterious energy. After she ordered him to turn around, he instantly obeyed, his gaze meeting hers, as if responding to an invisible thread of their mutual understanding, a secret connection permeating their essences. After chastising him, she insisted that he use the same technique on himself that he intended to use to harm Edward, setting up an unusual test and testing his moral principles. Despite everything, he could not allow himself to die, because his cherished desires had not yet found their fulfillment, and threads of unfinished stories were laid in this unresolved fate. Her blood technique was powerless against someone who surpassed her in strength. It seems his cultivation level is at its peak, approaching becoming a saint, creating an imbalance in their power relationship. The teacher could not hold back his tears and admitted that he still did not have a lover, revealing the inner pain. Something unspoken remained in his life. Absolute control over him required satisfying his deepest desire, revealing the key to his essence, and gaining power over his inner world. The girl clarified what qualities he is looking for in his beloved, trying to understand his inner desires and moods in the sphere of love. Suddenly aware, she realized that she was doing something ridiculous, laughing at her own stupidity, freeing herself from the mystical charm of the moment. And so the teacher broke free of her magic, looking at her questioningly, asking if she could bring her previous spell to life. His eyes instantly flashed with a blue glow, filled with mystical energy that expressed something deep and mysterious in his inner world. Likewise, the girl's eyes were imbued with a blue tint, reflecting in their sparkling light the secret forces that united their destinies in a magical dance. The master stated that it was at this moment that they would begin, opening a new chapter filled with secrets, challenges, and unknown possibilities. Instantly, the girl turned into the form of a cat, magically taking on a new form, full of grace and mystery, which was combined with her inner strength. He noted that this look did not meet his expectations, suggesting that cat ears would suit Emily better, creating an incredible combination of mystery and tenderness in her image. Asking her to come, he got what he wanted, and she instantly obeyed, stepping towards him, translating his commands into reality, revealing new facets of their interaction. Having started to speak absurdly, the girl suddenly plunged into the world of absurd verbal expressions, acting out the theater of the absurd, creating a comic atmosphere around. The master had difficulty understanding the man's purpose in sending them to kill him and his students, wondering about the secrets and motives that lingered in the shadows. Having explained the situation, she clarified that their presence became an obstacle for the master, thereby emphasizing that the sudden intervention changed the course of events and disrupted his plans. Without complete information about the master, it seemed that part of their memories had been erased, leaving only a small trace of the order that pierced their consciousness. Having asked her to tell the rest of the order, he sought to reveal the secret, opening before them the canvas of the past and unraveling the puzzle, the parts of which still remained in the shadows. The teacher was shocked to hear that the order contained the need to kill a specific student, unraveling the terrible conspiracy that was engulfing his students. Steve asked when they arrived at the Northern Ice Palace, to which he received the answer that 3 years ago, after the death of the previous owner of the palace. 3 years ago, the Northern Ice Palace found itself in a state of chaos as a whirlwind of events unfolded, leaving behind icy trails of uncertainty and anxiety. The teacher decided that he would figure it out himself, taking responsibility for uncovering the mysterious events and restoring order in the Ice Palace. Steve noted that the rapid regeneration and the shadow of power hanging over them did not provide them with any meaningful support, making it impossible for them to save their lives at that fateful moment. Apparently, he had been passive for too long and had not met such powerful opponents for a long time, realizing that his time of inaction had made him vulnerable to new challenges. Realizing that he had become noticeably more powerful since his fight with Steve, they realized that they were facing an opponent who had undergone an impressive increase in power. Steve stated that they could be useful to him and asked if they understood the meaning of his words and the importance of what he was talking about now. Steve approached him with a request to take the ring from his hand, revealing that it contained a restoration pill and a cultivation pill. Inviting them to share them, he expressed his willingness to strengthen their strength for the upcoming trials. The guy was asked what about their friend, expecting an answer from him that would reveal the secrets of their relationship with this mysterious woman. The girls still became curious to know the origins of this gentleman, raising the question of his past and the roles he plays in their destinies. The guy admitted that during the second half of their battle, his mind persistently advised him to run away, revealing the internal conflict and fear that gripped him at that moment. The girl tried to speak out, but Edward abruptly interrupted her, leaving an unfinished sentence in the air and reminding her that some secrets are better left without words. The very strong man who asked the question turned to the ladies, asking for their opinion of his gentlemanly appearance, seeking confirmation of his external attractiveness. At that moment, the unreachable Emily lay seemingly lifeless, while a mysterious figure tried to awaken her to life. With all her might she strove to reach her bow, in a final struggle for survival, filling the space with tension and determination. An hour ago, Emily and Grace were next to that same mysterious guy, surrounded by an aura of mystery and mystery. The mysterious guy told them that a threesome is a special type of connection where three destinies are intertwined, creating incredible stories and causing changes in the lives of each of the participants. This opened up new horizons for understanding their relationship and influence on each other. He had previously heard about this in relation to others, but did not imagine that he himself would be drawn into a threesome, feeling at his destiny those mysterious forces that he had heard about earlier. Of course, Emily could not stand such dirty words and was about to strike back, demonstrating her determination and courage in defending her dignity. The girl warned him to watch his language, emphasizing that there was no place for rudeness and indecent statements in their communication. But he explained that a threesome is a kind of dance where each participant interacts with the others, creating harmony and a complex symphony in which each movement plays its role in the overall dance of destinies. With a menacing tone, she called him a virgin, sounding reproachful, mocking his inexperience and unsuccessful attempts to prove himself. She then ordered him not to use a word unless he knew its meaning, strongly reminding him of the need for respectful communication and precision in expression. As it turned out, the guy turned out to be flexible and easily did the splits, causing surprise and admiration for his unexpected physical fitness. Amazing everyone, the guy showed his amazing flexibility and elasticity, revealing his unusual talent and causing admiration among those around him. The girls, without losing hope of victory, continued to strive to defeat him, raising the challenge and demonstrating their determination in this unusual fight. Grace noted that he possessed incredible speed and strength, solving the mystery of his power and anticipating the difficulties of competing with him. The girl was determined to seriously resist, expressing her readiness and desire to face challenges and trials. Ultimately, Emily was able to knock the guy's head off with a well-placed shot from her arrow, highlighting her accuracy and strength. Of course, the guy simply fell to the floor, defeated by Emily's skill, expressed in her precise movements and well-aimed shots. As it turned out, it was a wig with a hat attached, and some pins were sticking out of the guy's head, revealing the secret of his appearance, and causing laughter and surprise among those around him. Saying that their action was not very nice towards them, he expressed his dissatisfaction and emphasized the misunderstanding about the use of such a trick. He flared with rage after they discovered his secret, showing his indignation and annoyance at their ridicule. Grace found herself at a loss, unable to understand what was happening to him, faced with his outburst of emotions and reaction to the revelation of his secret. He then warned that they would pay for this act, hinting at possible consequences and emphasizing that his anger would not go unanswered. Grace asked to leave the close combat to her, expressing her readiness to answer the challenge and resolve the conflict in open confrontation. The guy actually flared up in rage, showing anger and indignation, disturbing the peace and tranquility that had previously reigned among them. Impatient, he did not intend to wait long and immediately launched an attack, expressing his determination and desire to resolve all issues at once. Of course, Grace wasn't going to just stand there either, demonstrating her determination and readiness to respond to her opponent's attack. Yet she somehow managed to land the first blow on him, outwitting him and using a unique opportunity that opened the way for her to gain an advantage in this fight. Well, unfortunately, the second strike was unsuccessful, leaving her encounter with the enemy in a state of uncertainty and forcing her to reevaluate her tactics. The boy realized that they were serious, sensing something in their determination and energy that made him reevaluate his approach and willingness to resist. And since he is trying to live up to the image of a gentleman, then he should pay attention to both ladies, expressing politeness and respect for their strength and determination. He stated that they had demonstrated to him their manners as a gentleman, and he needed to work on himself, expressing his readiness for change and recognizing that his behavior needed correction. Then he threw Emily with such force that she almost buried herself under blocks of ice, causing a wave of surprise and concern around her. Stopping in front of her, he decided to finish off the girl, showing his ruthlessness and intention to take the conflict to extreme measures. He still managed to do this, winning this fight and demonstrating his strength, despite the resistance and perseverance of the girl. Grace realized that it was impossible to go headlong against such perverts, realizing the need for a more thoughtful and strategic approach in the fight against their cunning. She noticed that there were people next to her who had not experienced battles. She came up with an idea on how to use their strength and support to resist the aggressor. She began to use an unusual technique that seemed to combine strength, flexibility and surprise, causing surprise and interest among those around her. But he noticed that her trick was too obvious, expressing his skepticism and confidence that he could withstand her unusual methods. In an incomprehensible way, the girl simply disappeared, leaving behind only mystery and surprise in the eyes of those who followed her movements. Realizing that she urgently needed to pick up her sister and turn to the teacher, she decided to leave the battlefield in order to protect her loved ones and seek help. Deciding to dive into the water under the ice, she chose an unconventional path, trying to outflank her opponent and ensure her safety by creating surprise in her actions. At a completely unexpected moment, a guy appeared from behind and grabbed her, creating a surprise and changing the course of events, forcing her to reconsider her tactics. He saw her surprise, realizing that this was the true power of a person at the peak of emptiness, capable of instantly appearing and acting at the most unexpected moments. Of course, Grace began to lose consciousness, succumbing to the sudden event and feeling the fog in her mind that was ready to consume her. As it turned out, the teacher had been watching them all this time, and he did not expect that this guy would mutate, creating new variables in their fight and surprising even the experienced mentor. In addition, he noticed that today is a full moon, adding an additional element of mystery to the plot and the influence of lunar energy on what is happening. It is unclear for what reasons, but he decided that he would not intervene, leaving all responsibility for the outcome of events in their hands. If they cannot win, then, in his opinion, there is no point in striving for immortality. The guy said that, being a gentleman, he tried to be as caring as possible and reunited them, bringing a sudden resolution to the fight and emphasizing his gallantry. He then drank the restoration elixir and simply walked away, leaving behind a mystery and some bewilderment as he absorbed the power and energy from this mystical event. In an incomprehensible way, Grace began to recover sharply on her own. Internal strength, or the influence of the surrounding atmosphere, supported her recovery. Her gaze was determined and she knew what she needed to do, showing clarity of purpose and a willingness to re-enter the game with complete confidence. She asked him to remember her name well, emphasizing his determination and returning to the game with renewed energy and confidence. Luckily, the girl's technique, called Silent Moon, caused thunderclouds to appear. Now they have a chance to change the situation in their favor, emphasizing the importance of her skill and influence on the world around her. Emily was also determined to end this guy, showing her determination and willingness to stand up to protect her loved ones and overcome sudden obstacles. Emily admitted that this guy was driving her crazy, and now he was finished, expressing her readiness to finally resolve the conflict and put an end to the aggressor. Emily realized that they had to meet with the teacher soon, and they had little time left, emphasizing the urgency of the situation and the urgency of the task before them. Grace understood and took action, demonstrating her readiness for the next step and attention to what needed to be done in the remaining time. In a split second, the boy felt incredible pain, feeling the consequences of the actions that were directed against him, and facing a force that he did not foresee. The girl charged him right below the waist, directing her attack with precision and power that could influence the outcome of the fight and change the course of events. Grace told Emily to take action, giving her the initiative and emphasizing the urgency of their joint efforts to meet the challenges facing them. She had difficulty aiming at one, and she also wondered what would happen if she missed, expressing internal doubts and the difficulty of accepting responsibility for her actions. But she had no opportunity to hesitate, because Grace had spent her strength emphasizing the need for decision and action, even in the face of depleted resources. A split second later, Emily fired, aiming her shot with ambition and determination, creating tension in the air and hoping for the success of this decisive attack. And fortunately, it still went straight to the boy's heart, completing this epic moment and highlighting the successful conclusion of their resistance. She then grabbed Grace and they raced away from the guy, trying to ensure their safety and retreat from the vanished threat. The spiritual energy that the teacher shared with them is spent, and Grace's technique is also at its limit, emphasizing the depletion of resources and the need to recharge before the next stage. He should now lose consciousness for a period of time, emphasizing physical and emotional exhaustion after intense struggle and vigorous action. Emily said that was great, and if anything went wrong she would use the explosives the teacher had given her, adding an element of tension and surprise to their plan. Just then, Steve came up behind them and said that they had pulled it off just in time, creating an unexpected alliance and adding an additional element to the development of the plot. When Emily heard his voice, she was visibly overjoyed, revealing emotions and feelings at the sudden reunion with her ally. She was glad that he had finally arrived, relieved and confident that their team was now complete again. In addition, he also wanted to tear out Grace's spiritual roots, and her mechanical arm almost broke, increasing the tension and creating a new point of tension in their relationship. The teacher began to explain that this time they had not had a very good experience, having stumbled upon a pervert who also offended them by expressing disappointment and dissatisfaction with the current situation. The teacher asked them to get off him, as this was not very wise, out of concern for their safety and emphasizing that the continuation of the conflict might not be desirable. When the teacher called her fat, she became very angry, showing agitation and indignation at the insult. Now they had to continue looking for Steve's old friend, emphasizing the importance of the next step and focusing attention on the key goal of their task. The girl realized that it seemed that they would not be able to save the last hairs of the guy, expressing disappointment and awareness of the loss of an important part for their magical ritual. He would never have thought that in this battle he would not be able to protect the last hairs on his head, expressing surprise when faced with an unexpected challenge. It can be said that they have now become disciples of that gentleman, highlighting the change in the dynamics of their relationship and the transition to a new stage in their journey. Steve begins to say that his friend is not as powerful as he is, but he is immensely rich, highlighting the differences in power and wealth between the characters and the possible impact of this on the development of the plot. They arrived and their destination was not far away, offering them new perspectives and challenges in their adventure. At this time, some strangers were apparently waiting for the teacher and students, anticipating possible intrigues and plot developments. Steve never stopped admiring the beautiful landscape around him, creating an atmosphere of calm and enjoyment of the surrounding nature in his inner world. Emily couldn't tell if it was called a rich country, expressing doubts and curiosity about the status and lifestyle of the place. Not even people were visible nearby, creating a mysterious and secluded atmosphere around, leaving questions about what could be hiding in this mysterious place. Some guy, not with a girl, stood behind all this, watching, creating intrigue and raising questions about his role in the plot and his relationship to what was happening. He explained that there are no people here, but there are plenty of ghosts, adding an element of mysticism and fantasy to the setting, which comes to life with new aspects in their adventure. The teacher explained that these are traps for killing people, thousands of them, creating tension and emphasizing the dangers that await the heroes in their new place of adventure. Emily couldn't understand what had started to happen and thought they were caught, reflecting her anxiety and fear of possible dangers. The teacher asked her to calm down and asked her if they would like to meet his old friend, offering a new twist in the plot and opening the door to an interesting conversation. Gray could not understand where he was, expressing bewilderment and concern before the mysterious disappearance of the teacher. It was as if some kind of dragon had emerged from the depths of hell, but it was the king of black dragons, adding an element of fantasy and the sudden appearance of a powerful creature to the plot. Then the silhouette of some guy with wings appeared in the sky, adding to the atmosphere of mystery and possible influences of supernatural entities. The guy immediately began practically kissing Steve's hands and calling him brother, creating an unexpected twist in their meeting and highlighting the possible connections between the characters. The guy burst into tears, because they had not seen each other for a long time, and the teacher immediately punched him, adding an emotional element and a hint of the complex relationship between the characters. Decided to introduce, he explained that these two girls are his students, revealing new connections and relationships between the characters. The guy introduces himself as the king of the black demons, but they can call him William, adding mystery to the event and introducing an element of demonic mystery into the story. At this time, William looked at Emily with interest, hinting at possible relationships and intrigues associated with her character. The guy asked what Steve had in the ring, creating suspense and emphasizing the importance of the item in the plot. The teacher could not understand how Kite got out on her own, finding herself in a difficult situation and emphasizing the mystery of her appearance. The girl asked the teacher for help, expressing her vulnerability and creating an element of tension in the plot. William noticed the double pupils and asked if this was a property of the bag. He couldn't understand how she even fit in there, adding mystery and intrigue to Kite's character. In the mysterious foothills they discovered a girl named Zoe and a guy named Connor. Here, in a secluded corner of nature, their destinies are intertwined, revealing secrets and leaving traces in a whirlwind of mysteries. Noticing the teacher's strange behavior, Zoe noted in surprise how he had just greeted the Black Dragon King and then invited strangers to join him on a mysterious adventure. The teacher, with a solemn look, announced that this was their last chance to avoid irreparable consequences, since his patience was exhausted and on the verge of running out. William, as he began to explain, revealed that despite his millions of years of existence from antiquity to the present day, he had just experienced his virtuoso prime of life, the refined wine, due to his endless longevity. Emily felt deep confusion in this world of diverse stories, where each branch folded into a tangled labyrinth, forcing her to get lost in a multitude of unknown and mysterious things. The girl asked the teacher if he could help them into the Blackwater Abyss, knowing exactly what they needed there. Steve began to explain that it is easy to guess that the one who went to the Dragon Bone Wasteland seeks to discover the Blackwater Abyss. Steve wondered if they were the successors to the master who had left his mark in the wasteland of the Dragon of Bones. This mysterious connection with the past filled the air with an invisible energy that excited each of them. Connor had a hard time understanding why he was having such a hard time holding his tongue. He hopefully that the teacher wouldn't get too angry and give him a punishment. Zoe, looking at Steve with curiosity, could not resist and decided to deepen the question by asking how, in his opinion, Steve was able to sense and understand what was happening. The teacher explained that from Zoya comes the breath of the soul of his old friend. The invisible connection between them permeates time and space. Then the girl began to suspect that perhaps the teacher had knowledge about her ancestors, creating the feeling that he was peering into the past of her family. He made it clear that he had information about the mysterious master, leaving unspoken questions in the air about the origin of this mysterious knowledge. Adding to the mystery, it was revealed that the mysterious master was the grandson of the teacher, revealing another unexpected aspect of their connection. The teacher, having traveled as much as heaven and earth, opened up the prospect for them that in the future he would become the second immortal being in this mysterious world. Realizing that it was better not to think about the eternal circle of life and death, the teacher recommended submitting to the current moment, plunging into it without unnecessary thought. He came to the conclusion that if Steve continues to cultivate immortality, then in a few decades it seems he will have to look for a place in the cemetery. Steve asked if his boyfriend had just cursed him and offered to bet that whoever lost would be the loser in this scenario. He warned Steve to be careful, claiming that the man in question had never lost in his life. Thus, with surprise, it became clear that not only the teacher, but also his grandson, Steve, were people for whom the concept of defeat remained something distant and unknown in their difficult destinies. As it turned out, This mysterious story revolved around Steve's grandson, adding new layers of mystery and fascination to it. Zoe immediately began calling him her grandfather, finding something special and meaningful in this connection for her own path. Arriving at the underground palace, they discovered a place where the secrets of the past and the future collided, meeting in a magical embrace of riddles. William asked the verse to wait a moment, intending to talk now, hinting at an important conversation waiting to happen. Steve began to explain that there was a lot of treasure hidden in this cave, inviting them to go there and take everything they could lay their eyes on. The girl again expressed gratitude to her grandfather, feeling something special and caring in his presence. Connor, for some reason unknown to him, decided to investigate the scent of a black dragon and noted that it was significantly different from the scent of a blue dragon. The teacher felt that Kite was now much calmer, aware of the change in his emotional state. Now, it seemed, the time had come when they could talk calmly, highlighting topics that had long remained in the shadows. It started 3 years ago when William questioned why a certain person was looking for him, trying to move his double pupil. Something unusual happened and the girl announced that she needed to be moved to a safer place, revealing secret aspects of her past. Her name was Rebecca, and she turned out to be one of the 21 best, but fate brought her together with William, opening a new chapter in her life. William could not understand what events could await one of the 21 best, infiltrating their world and changing the usual course of things. Even being one of the 21 best, she realized that she could not deceive fate, and unexpected prospects and challenges could open up before her. Rebecca asked people what the future held for her, hoping to get perspective and advice from those who might be more experienced and wise. Only 3 years ago she was an ordinary girl without any magical abilities, but she and Rebecca turned out to be highly compatible, and now she has become the next carrier of double pupils. The teacher asked the girl if she knew what happened to Rebecca, leaving the question of the fate of her predecessor up in the air. Steve noted that a lot of strange events had been happening lately and asked if William would help him figure out what was going on, leaving the path open to solving the mysterious incidents. Steve began to say that someone was pursuing and killing the best of the 21, claiming that these people had created an icy abyss in the body of his 6th student. This time, upon arrival, he gathered the students of the palace to go in search of the frosty flower. Then he was informed that 3 years ago there was an accident in the palace. Rebecca was injured and withdrew into herself. William said that there was also an incident with a magic castle. A certain man settled among the best, quietly penetrated from the Blackwater abyss, destroyed this castle and freed his brother. However, he was also told that the teacher represented an obstacle to the higher powers leading this institution. Steve stated that the problem is not with him, because after all, he is the best and most handsome guy in the entire universe. The teacher met this unexpected challenge with doubt, facing a secret figure capable of cutting through the magical barriers set even by Emperor Wen himself. Gossip and riddles pierced the air, shrouding their world in mysterious excitement. It appears that the opponent's abilities are on par with those of the teacher, causing him to be somewhat uneasy about the strength of their unknown opponent. Finally, William emphasized that for him, poetry will always be a powerful tool, capable of influencing destinies and leaving a mark in their unusual world. During this time, William shared the story of Rebecca, revealing parts of her past and the bond that grew between them during their journey together. After all, he spent 3 days and nights in a small room with such a beautiful lady, just practicing and deepening his skills. This challenge created some tension in the air, leaving the question hanging over what events would propel them forward and how the two would meet or diverge on their unusual journey. The teacher immediately removed the girl and boy because their presence was causing concern to his friend, in an effort to resolve potential conflicts and maintain calm in his environment. If they have any questions, have them both simply bring them up to William, trying to clarify the situation and resolve any misunderstandings. Connor was slightly confused, having heard all the answers he wanted to hear, and realizing that the nature of the situation might be more complicated than it seemed. The teacher stated that they both should adhere to realism in their historical studies. Despite this, it was important for them to avoid absurdities so as not to tarnish the reputation of the emperor. William promised that he would not reveal details of the affair, trying to maintain confidentiality and respect for privacy. William did not know when he would meet them again, leaving the mystery of the future and the unknown of the time of their next meeting in the air. But he assured that their long life would last millions of years, and they would definitely meet again, allaying worries about a possible long separation. Zoe realized that Steve was the man her grandfather had told her about, warning her that if the Empire was threatened, she should turn to Steve, and as long as he was around, the Empire would survive. Grandfather said that she herself would understand when she saw him, hinting at a special inner feeling and urging her to trust her own intuition. And then, unfortunately, Grandfather simply passed away, leaving his words hanging in the air as a clue to the unknown secrets of the future. Now, she understood what her grandfather was talking about then, remembering his words with a new understanding and awareness of their deep meaning. The noisy forest was filled with screams and cracking branches as an unidentified man, in danger, tried to escape the clutches of wild tigers, introducing a new element of drama and unknown adventure into everyday life. Given his current condition, it will be difficult for him to win, creating additional challenges along the way. He rejoiced at the opportunity to meet his wife and daughter, realizing that today was the day of his death, leaving the shadow of an unknown and uncertain future in the air. At this time, Steve approached the man and asked if he was Ben, creating a mysterious combination of events and characters in their amazing story. The man confirmed Steve's guesses, clarifying his identity and introducing a new round of meeting and revealing secrets into the narrative. The teacher stated that Ben was very frank and promised to be merciful, helping him fight off the wild tigers and go through his trials with strength and grace. Then, of course, the teacher began shooting the tigers, engaging the wildlife to ensure Ben's safety and the next step in their mysterious journey. A few minutes later everything was ready, creating a moment of relief after the tense battle where the teacher and Ben worked together to overcome the danger. Ben couldn't see who was standing in front of him, feeling a mixture of excitement and bewilderment, waiting for the secret to be revealed to him. Grace admired her teacher's skill with fire, finding his skills impressive and unique. They noticed that there were some inscriptions on the small tablet, creating intrigue and pushing them to want to unravel the mystery of this small, mysterious sign. They could not make out what the signs were, remaining perplexed by the unknown, which gave this place an atmosphere of mystery and enigma. The teacher revealed that they were looking for a master, adding to the mystery of their search and raising questions about who this gentleman was and what his role in what was happening. The man, who looked more like a woman, asked them to wait, adding even more mystery to the situation and preparing for new twists in the plot. A girl immediately ran out to them, creating an unexpected reunion and an additional element of surprise in their meeting. She literally immediately attacked Steve, causing surprise and mixed feelings in the group that witnessed this unusual episode. But she was glad that he had finally arrived, revealing part of the secret and completing the picture of their meeting. In addition, she said that she missed her very much, adding to the meeting a note of warmth and joy from the reunion. Emily noticed that she had seen this scene somewhere before, remembering distorted fragments of the past that were now part of their present. She was furious and ready to tear this girl apart, highlighting the growing tension and conflict within the group. She couldn't understand why there was something hard near her abdominal muscles, causing surprise and alarm as she encountered the stranger's mysterious physiology. Then, finally, she realized that she had simply made a mistake, reading the wrong signals and adding a comic twist to what was happening. But Emily's nerves could no longer stand it, and she was ready to attack this girl, who introduced an element of instability and uncertainty into their scenario. Grace asked why the girl was avoiding or showing no interest in Ben, her grandfather, raising questions about possible ulterior motives and relationship dynamics. The verse asked why Emily was still angry, introducing a new element of curiosity, and raising the topic of unresolved conflicts in the group. The teacher began to explain that her grandfather was in danger, and if they had not stumbled upon him, worse things could have happened to him, and they also found a sign with her name on it, which added to the mystery of the events. She knew that something would happen to him if this went on, but he did not listen to her, no matter how much she tried to persuade her, creating tension and worry for her grandfather. She began to explain that her uncle's daughter and wife were killed by cruel tigers and he was determined to destroy all the cruel tigers to avenge his wife and daughter, introducing an element of tragedy and revenge into their plot. For some reason, Emily thought that the girl was Ben's fiancée, creating an unexpected twist in the relationship between the characters and adding additional mystery to the scene. She explained that she put the sign in his hand only so that in case of danger, and God forbid, his death, they would know where his body should be taken, revealing the depth of care and forethought. If he finds out, he he would give her another lecture, and in the end, the only thing he loved most was his late wife, revealing the intricacies of complex feelings and relationships. After a long time, Ben finally woke up, returning to consciousness and adding mystery to his fragmentary perception of what was happening. Steve then waved to him, signaling his presence and his return to reality. While the others waited for the surprising turn of events to continue, the man thanked him for saving him, adding an acknowledgement of gratitude and strengthening the bonds between the characters in this unusual narrative. He said that he doesn't have to go through thick and thin for him, but he needs his help, emphasizing the importance of cooperation in their shared journey and new challenges. He pulled out something and asked if he knew what it was, introducing a mysterious element of exploration into their further adventures. Steve, as if on purpose, provoked Ben, creating tension and raising questions about possible conflicts and dramatic turns in the plot. The man could not understand how he knew his real name and where he obtained this artifact, adding mystery to their meeting and raising questions about the character's past. He said that the owner of the Order of Frost gave him a token to find him and told him Ben's real name, expanding the mystery of the plot and introducing a new element of intrigue. The man thought about the owner of the Ice Order, giving the image of this mysterious character even more mystery and importance in the plot. Ben thought about a certain girl, adding a new aspect of romance and feeling to their adventure, adding an interesting twist to the plot. The teacher began to talk about the former captain of the Snow Shadow team, working exclusively for the master of the Northern Ice Palace, who does not seem to be on the best terms with the palace master, revealing the complex relationships and drama within the Ice Kingdom. But the bastard wants Ben to die, adding an element of tension and danger to their journey, highlighting the growing conflict and hostility in their world. The man could not understand how he could send someone with an order to him, causing surprise and bewilderment due to the unexpected interference in his life. At that time, the Palace of Fates and the Snow Shadow Team were the two main power organizations of the Northern Ice Palace, one of which was light and the other was hidden, adding a new level of complexity and intrigue to their world. The Palace of Fates is in charge of the punishment system and other palace affairs, while the Snow Shadows only deal with murders and purges, clarifying the functional responsibilities and roles of each organization in their cold kingdom. Over the course of a year, something irreversibly changed in Rebecca's soul, and like an enchanted switch, she transferred control of her life to a man whose secret shrouded her essence. Ben recalled how he expressed the hope that they, fighting the mysterious Snow Shadows, would give him an answer about who sent them to attack. The stranger said that the Snow Shadows were released many years ago, and now he believes that he is not supposed to know the details of this event. The secret team Snow Shadow was launched into action, and only members of this mysterious group knew about its existence. The stranger who asked to stay turned to Ben with a request to forget the past, because, according to him, he was already dead to this world. Returning to the past, he found only a few bloody scraps of cloth. The magical weapons had disappeared, and there were no bones of his teammates left at all. Having just returned to the village, he suddenly encountered a tragedy when his wife and daughter were attacked by a tiger. Since then, he has desperately sought to avenge his comrades, but he stubbornly fails to establish contact with the mysterious ruler behind everything that happened. He longed for revenge for his wife and children, victims of that tiger, which became a symbol of his misfortune and an incentive to decisive action. Ben's words about how the man eliminated the Snow Shadow made him suspicious that he was the source of the problems, but in Steve he saw a reliable ally, deciding to trust him in the current situation. Steve asked if it was possible to find a way to meet with the master, in the hope of solving the mystery and being able to resolve the accumulated questions. He could have remained silent, but Steve, originally heading here in search of the gentleman, has valuable information and turned to Ben, intending to inquire in more detail. The teacher invited the man to rest, but he decided to take 2 students with him, intending to figure out the situation on his own. After this, the teacher began to explain the whole situation to his students, revealing to them the secrets and details of what was happening. Grace, having expressed her thought, noted that such a coincidence seemed very favorable and unusual, arousing interest and hope for a successful development of events. Emily, expressing her thoughts, highlighted the possibility that the cruel tigers that bring suffering to people could be part of the man's evil plan. He did not want to personally kill Ben, preferring the secret death of family members to push Ben to suicide. Thus, after completing their brainstorming, the teacher suggested that they just relax and take a walk to refresh their minds a little and enjoy the moment before new challenges. Grace noticed that she preferred to exercise, expressing a preference for an active lifestyle over a quiet walk. Emily, unlike Grace, was forced to join the teacher on a walk, following his instructions. The teacher promised her that after the walk she would be able to choose something from his treasures, instilling in her the expectation of reward for participating in this unusual adventure. Grace couldn't figure out whether the two were enemies, weighing the mysterious circumstances and mistrust between them. During the walk, the teacher, deciding to look into the distance, carefully examined the surrounding landscape, perhaps looking for some signs or clues. At this time, two guys in the distance were fighting for the attention of one lady, creating an unpleasant sight that attracted the attention of the teacher. As they fought, they boasted of their exploits, filling the air with proud words and magnificent gestures. Such a performance made Emily feel uncomfortable, and her contempt for the arrogant praise on the faces of her rivals only grew. Emily did not want to delve into the interests of these men, and did not understand what they had so interesting to offer, remaining indifferent to their arrogant actions. At this time, Emily felt that something special was noticeable in the air, calling her attention and raising the whisper of a riddle. Steve asked those around him if they liked touching him, raising the topic of personal spaces and comfort in communication. Still, Emily admitted that she was pleased to feel Steve's touch, and showed unexpected interest in this moment. She began to slowly sink lower and lower, heading towards her pelvis, creating a mysterious tension in the air. Emily joked, noting that she wasn't slobbering, but was simply testing out how much better Steve's physique was than the guy on stage. As it turned out, all this time the attention of others was focused on what was happening between Emily and the guy. Their actions did not go unnoticed. The teacher simply decided to take the student aside, determined to remove her from the spotlight and prevent further unexpected situations. Emily asked Steve what he thought about how the situation would end once Grace completed her actions. Just at this time, the same girl joined them, creating an additional twist in the plot. She said that Ben wanted to give Steve a big gift before he left, adding mystery and interest to the upcoming event. Steve was looking forward to this gift, excited and curious about what Ben might have in store for him before he left. He would be interested to know what amazing event Ben was planning to pull off, and he couldn't wait to unravel the mystery. However, Ben announced that they were heading in the opposite direction, shattering Steve's expectations and adding to the mystery of the upcoming event. When Steve entered the room, he didn't expect Ben to have such exquisite taste, judging by the unexpected elements in the decor and furnishings. Now Amelia realized what a real arsenal should look like, as opposed to the chaos that reigned in the forge, and she saw that Ben's taste was evident even in the weapons storage room. Ben began to explain that he was holding an armlet that he used when hunting packs of tigers for defense and attack, revealing past exploits and experiences, and having asked, offered her the opportunity to put the armlet on his arm, implying that this could be an interesting and exciting experience. Emily noted that it was a very heavy item, noting the weight and strength of the armlet, which added even more importance to it. Emily couldn't understand why Grace couldn't do it on her own, wondering how difficult it was to put on the armlet. Emily really struggled with the thing, showing awkwardness and discomfort when trying to put the armband on. Steve asked if Ben had blueprints for the armlet's design, expressing interest in how it was created. When they are finished, the teacher will take this armor to the Wanderer at the Sage's Forge, and they will receive a high-grade version of it, building anticipation for future upgrades and adventures. The teacher announced that it was time to leave, emphasizing the urgency of the next stage of the adventure. Ben asked Steve to take care of himself and assured him that he would expect good news from him, expressing his concern and hope for a successful continuation of the journey. At this time, the girl was sleeping peacefully in her room, unaware of the events and adventures unfolding in her absence. She couldn't understand what kind of pervert dared to climb into her bed, encountering something unexpected and amazing. Seeing the face of this pervert, she was amazed and surprised, faced with an unexpected appearance. As it turned out, it was Steve, and she used the technique he had previously taught her, expressing her joy at the meeting and the successful implementation of the skills she had learned. She said that he remained the same as before, always loving to hang out in other people's beds, creating a slight irony for his habits. She asked who had previously hidden under her covers and ran off to spend 3 days and 3 nights in Rebecca's bed, emphasizing the fun and surprise of past adventures. He asked his sister to be quiet, taking care to maintain secrecy and avoid unnecessary noise. She was surprised that he had a person whom he was afraid of, because this was something unusual and rare for her. They were all already in the palace, and the guy introduced himself as William's brother, also being a former friend of Rebecca, creating new complications in their relationship. The man heard Deborah say that they all wanted to see him, creating some mystery and interest around his identity. The teacher began to explain that they were traveling, passing through the snowy plains of the Far East, and decided to look at them. He pointed out that Rebecca was currently in seclusion, adding to the mystery of her whereabouts. For the sake of the Order of Ice Cold, he asked to be allowed to enter the deep ice cave to see the girl. Deborah couldn't understand how he got the information about him, causing her confusion and interest. The man realized that this order had serious weight, but despite this, the deep ice cave in the Northern Ice Palace remained a forbidden place. In recent years, Ms. Rebecca has become a target of particular interest to some criminals, creating unpredictable and stressful circumstances in her life. The teacher could not understand who would have the strength and courage to do something bad against Mrs. Rebecca, emphasizing her influence and security. The man could have come up with something more sophisticated, but he did not need it, considering such tricks petty and inappropriate. Unless their palace changed its traditions and rules, otherwise, with the ice-cold order, they could not refuse him, giving him special privileges in this closed place. The man warned that if he interrupted them after what had been said, he would be guilty of disrespect for the palace, emphasizing the importance and sacredness of the topic under discussion. Then, with a polite smile, he turned to the captain and one of the men, begging them to lead the guests on a journey filled with mysteries and unexpected discoveries. The captain strictly insisted that all guests submit their magical weapons and rings for a detailed examination, after which they could follow her, ready for new adventures. The man argued that since the three did not turn out to be dead, it spoke of some kind of mystery or fateful intervention, which forced him to continue to unravel the mysteries of what was happening. Now, walking together, they reached Rebecca's house, where there was an aura of anticipation in the air, the place itself hiding the key to unraveling their adventures. Angry to the extreme, he declared that he would send them all to the very heart of hell if they failed to reveal the mystery facing them. The captain, looking at the incredible events, warned him, advising him not to touch anything and not to deviate from the right path, emphasizing the importance of caution on this mysterious journey. Aware that there could be traps lurking everywhere that could devour them, he consciously accepted the burden of responsibility for the lives of his companions, trying to avoid invisible dangers. Emily was amazed at the variety of forks in this place, but the captain intervened in her surprise, confidently heading in the right direction, as if he knew every turn of this mysterious labyrinth. As it turned out, the master she was striving for was Rebecca herself, standing at the center of mysterious events where the paths of their destinies converged. Emily noticed the absence of a teacher around, and turning to the captain, she explained that her careless act was just an accidental stumble, hiding the true nature of her action. Emily began to express her complaints, claiming that they had already been walking for half an hour, emphasizing her anxiety in the face of endless paths and unknown dangers. Emily admitted that she accidentally stepped on her master's foot, and feeling embarrassed, she sincerely apologized for her careless act. The teacher begged her to be extremely careful, reminding her that her fate was connected with the fate of everyone, and if everyone died, she would fall into an insidious trap. She was left bewildered, unable to understand why Steve had suddenly shown such humanity and kindness while worrying about the change in his behavior. Emily frankly asked where Steve had gone, expressing her unwavering curiosity about his mysterious disappearance. She expressed a request not to cling to her, feeling a growing uneasiness from the intrusiveness, and insisted on her personal spatial independence. Or she could not comprehend why it suddenly became so cold around her. The invisible hand of nature squeezed the heart of her sensations. Deborah began to explain that they had almost reached the fisherman's place, emphasizing that the closer they got, the lower the temperature would be. The winter darkness enveloped them in the arms of a freezing wind. The master assured them that he was willing to share his spiritual energy to prevent them from freezing, creating an invisible shield against the icy cold that threatened to engulf them. Finally, they reached a place where they were asked to be quiet, warning that any unnecessary noise could lead to trouble, as if the place was a real zone of mystery and danger. Rebecca pleaded not to be rude to the guests, feeling that even in the shadow of mysterious events it was necessary to maintain elements of respect and hospitality. She instantly recognized the teacher and asked if he had come to her on some special matter, feeling that the meeting was not accidental and carried a hidden meaning. He replied that it was nothing special, he just hadn't heard from her for a long time and decided to find out if she was alive, trying to unravel the mysteries of time and distances. She claims that she is still alive and well, exuding confidence in her vitality, having answered the question of time with her unwavering spirit. The captain announced that for the sake of safety, the girls should keep such guests at a distance, emphasizing the need for caution in an environment of secret intrigue and unexpected dangers. She suggested that these guests simply be on the other side while the girl could approach her, creating a visible separation between the worlds of mystery and normal reality. Rebecca noted that she had not seen the girl for a long time, and inquired whether she had gone through the stage of transformation, then, invited the girl to sit down, creating an atmosphere of trust and friendly conversation. Emily glanced over, noticing that they looked somewhat strange and unnatural. Her sense of intuition told her that something mysterious was hiding behind these guests. The man accompanying them took on the role of narrator, telling how the lady and the girl, so close before, became isolated after that incident that happened 3 years ago. The girl, with a heavy sigh, opened her soul, admitting that she had an important story that needed to be told to the master. Rebecca cautiously asked if the girl was referring to that moment with her mother, creating a mysterious tension and anticipation in the air. The captain eventually revealed that she and her father had tracked down her mother's killer, revealing the dark details of her tragic past. The women were amazed that they had discovered her, expressing amazement and bewilderment at the unexpected turn of events. Then the girl, instantly taking decisive action, plunged the knife straight into the woman's heart, breaking the silence and spilled dark secrets. 3 years later, she was finally able to achieve revenge for her mother, completing the circle of a dark past and shedding light on dark secrets. The woman, in bewilderment, tried to understand why the girl considered her the killer of her mother, in search of a solution to the whirlwind of events that intertwined their destinies. Deborah, breaking the silence, began to reveal that her father told her the whole truth, blaming the girl for the death of her mother and accusing her of murder. The girl recalled the moment when her master, or in other words Rebecca, was introduced to her, feeling how the past and present were intertwined in a complex network of judicial ties. At first glance, the woman turned out to be not only extremely sweet, but also friendly, creating the illusion of calm within the gloomy whirlwind of what was happening. Of course, the girl was killed from the inside. The mysterious words sounding in the silence revealed the secret of the past, when they came up from behind and said that she had finally achieved her long-awaited revenge for the loss of her mother, and at that moment the fire of long-extinguished hatred flashed in her eyes. In the past, as in high mountains, they felt invincible, but now, in this difficult situation, it was as if they were at the top of an abyss that could not be climbed. Emily watched with fascination this exciting spectacle, a magical performance that unfolded before her eyes, bringing unknown excitement to her heart. The master ordered his subordinate to begin to act in this difficult situation. He apologized to them and said that someone should answer for the death of the woman. It so happened that she was hiding from the killer, and now her sudden death will become known to the whole world. Their death is very unfortunate, but there is nothing else left. But at this time the teacher appeared and saved them from the sinister hands of death. Steve couldn't understand why they were both staring at him, as if something was bothering them and giving them no peace. He could not understand which two teachers they were talking about if he was the only one standing in front of them. As it turned out, Rebecca was alive. It was all Steve's cunning plan. The teacher did this and was even able to deceive the captain. This surprised everyone present. Emily just couldn't understand how he managed to do all this in such the shortest lines. The teacher was ready to tell how it all happened. One day a woman was just lying there and leafing through some magazines. She noticed that her breasts were the same as those of the girl in the magazine. She wondered if she could achieve the same soft skin on them as hers. The stranger behind her told her that she wouldn't know until she tried it on her own skin. She couldn't figure out who was behind her, and that meant that now her fetishes were revealed.